Chapter 420. Unexpectedly, this black-robed cultivator was a remnant of the Dark Church with a demonic beast martial spirit. According to the rules of the continent, when one saw a remnant of the Dark Church, they had to work together to kill him. After all, the other party was once the public enemy of the continent. Xiao Chen thought for a while and stomped on the ground. An intense fist wind flew at the black-robed cultivator. When the black-robed cultivator saw Xiao Chen suddenly appear, he was somewhat surprised. However, when he discovered that Xiao Chen was only an inferior-grade martial king, the shock on his face turned into a smile. "You overestimate yourself. I can use this brat as a hostage and leave this place quickly. This girl is too strong. Dragging this out is not a solution." The black-robed cultivator knocked away the white-clothed girl's attack with his sword. He clenched his left fist, and strands of black chi surrounded it. He revealed a sinister smile as he clashed with Xiao Chen's fist. "Be careful, there is demonic chi on his fist. You cannot clash head-on with him." When the white-clothed girl saw Xiao Chen suddenly appear, she could not help but feel anxious. Why did a fellow who does not care about his life appear out of nowhere? Xiao Chen's expression remained calm. He did not care too much about it. He only merged his essence and vital chi. Under the situation where a full-powered strike could carry 150 tons of force, the essence he infused could reach 250 tons of force. This could be considered the peak punch of Xiao Chen in his perfect state. Bang! There was a loud ka-sieth sound, and a huge force spread out. The black-robed cultivator's entire arm was crippled, his bones broke. When the two fists met, there was a loud sound and an intense shockwave. A 10-meter-tall wave soared into the surroundings. Before the white-clothed girl's astonished gaze, the black chi surrounding Xiao Chen's fist wind blew away without a trace. Pu ci. The black-robed cultivator vomited a large mouthful of blood. His pale face was filled with shock. Xiao Chen's strength had reached an incredible level. It was at least 250 tons of force. Aside from peak superior-grade martial kings who cultivated superior-grade earth-ranked cultivation techniques, it would be difficult for anyone to achieve such strength. I have to run quickly. That girl is already difficult to deal with. Now, there is this strange brat. If I do not leave now, I will not be able to. The black-robed cultivator turned around and dove into the vast lake, trying to escape underwater. You want to leave? Not so easy. Xiao Chen stepped forward and shouted. Then, he punched the surface of the water and a huge whirlpool appeared in front of him. A pillar of water shot up into the sky. Amidst the countless fishes and prawns, the black-robed man's body was directly lifted into the air by the water column. At this time, the white-clothed woman also came back to her senses. She flew forward and brandished her sword. The white-clothed woman was like a butterfly, fluttering up and down. In the sword light, it was extremely sharp. In the air, it was as if it was real. Xiao Chen had never seen such a condensed sword light before. In an instant, Xiao Chen sent out more than 100 sword lights, creating more than 100 bloody holes of various sizes on the black-robed cultivator's body. Bang! When the water pillar fell, the black-robed cultivator's body landed on the surface of the lake as well. However, he was already dead. He could not be any more dead. This woman looked delicate and elegant. However, when she attacked, she was extraordinarily decisive and sharp. Ka-sie. The white-clothed woman chopped off the black-robed cultivator's head. Then, she tossed the head into her universe ring. Then, she removed the other party's spatial ring. Her movements were very smooth and practiced. Thank you for your help. What is your name? After the white-clothed woman finished all this, she raised her head and looked at Xiao Chen. Then, she smiled gently. Originally, Xiao Chen thought that the other party's help would drag her down. Unexpectedly, it saved her a lot of time. The white-clothed woman felt somewhat curious about this unfamiliar and strong youth. Xiao Chen said calmly, "It's fine. He is a remnant of the Dark Church. It is only natural for me to kill him." When the white-clothed woman heard this, she was slightly stunned. She carefully sized up Xiao Chen and smiled gently. You have just arrived in the ancient desolate land, right? Xiao Chen felt somewhat suspicious. He said, yes, I have indeed just arrived in the ancient desolate land. However, how did you know? The white-clothed woman smiled and said, after staying in the ancient desolate land for a long time, you would not say that. What do you mean? The white-clothed woman organized her words and explained everything to Xiao Chen in detail. It turned out that there were many remnant members of the Dark Church in the ancient desolate land. Furthermore, they had formed a moderately large faction. However, no one bothered about them. There was no other reason than this was the ancient desolate land, where the various factions gathered. There were many wanted criminals of the various nations, bandits, and tyrants who killed without batting an eyelid. As long as they came here, the wanted posters of the outside world would lose their effect. Since the destruction of the Tianwu dynasty, the ancient desolate land had always been a lawless place. It had always been extremely chaotic. Furthermore, due to some strange reason, there had never been any news of the 5 great nations or the strong sects planning to monopolize the ancient desolate land. At some point in time, the ancient desolate land became an absolutely neutral place in the continent. Even the evil tyrants and evil cultivators that everyone in the outside world would not be killed by righteous people in the name of chivalry. In the ancient desolate land, strength was everything. Righteousness and chivalry were just jokes to others. Even the survivors of the Nether sect, the common enemy of the human race, would not gang up on them here. They were no different from ordinary cultivators. They would only be hunted down if they violated the interests of others. After Xiao Chen heard this, he suddenly understood. This ancient desolate land was a miraculous place. However, he did not know why the various great nations and sects did not dare to encroach on the ancient desolate land. The ancient desolate land was a huge place. It could not be described as a piece of juicy meat. There should be an extremely strong faction in the ancient desolate land looking out for it in secret. Otherwise, it would not be able to prevent others from spying on it. After the white-clothed woman finished speaking, she continued, let me formally introduce myself. I am Xia Xian from the great Xia nation's Thousand Sword Pavilion. Xiao Chen had heard of the Thousand Sword Pavilion before. It was a peak sect in the great Xia nation. Its strength was similar to the great Chu nation's Heavenly Sword Gate. It was somewhat famous in the 4 great nations. Xiao Chen nodded gently and said, I am Xiao Chen from the great Qin nation. I do not belong to any sect at the moment. Xia Xian's pretty face revealed a stunned expression. Clearly, she did not believe that Xiao Chen did not belong to any sect. Xiao Chen's punch contained 250,000 kilograms of force. Even in the great Jin nation, where there were many geniuses, a large sect would value him. However, although Xia Xian was curious, she would not try to get to the bottom of things for no reason. Everyone had their own secrets to some extent. Looking at where you are going, you seem to be going to Heavenly Spring Island. Coincidentally, I have completed my mission as well. Let's go together. Xia Xian invited. Xiao Chen was stunned. He said, isn't that Red Cloud Island in front? How did it become Heavenly Spring Island? Xia Xian said with certainty, Heavenly Spring Island is in front. It is one of the 6 great islands, second only to the main island in the south. You must be going in the wrong direction. Xiao Chen took out the map and looked at it. He could not help but smile bitterly. Red Cloud Island and Heavenly Spring Island. One was in the south, and the other was in the north. The distance between them was close to 500 kilometers. Xiao Chen really did not know how he got here. How did you get here? Xia Xian asked softly. Xiao Chen thought for a while and answered honestly, I took a boat here. Since he took a boat, that should be a flying-type secret treasure. Xia Xian felt excited. She had not expected Xiao Chen to have such a treasure. However, this could explain the reason for this. Xia Xian said softly, no wonder. The Heavenly Extermination Lake looks calm, without any waves. However, there are many undercurrents. Sometimes, they even form a strong undercurrent. If one was not an experienced boatman, even if one had a map, they would definitely deviate from the right direction. The main island of the southern archipelago, Longyang Island, was similar to the capital of the Shiha province. It was the core island of the southern archipelago. The only difference was that it did not have any jurisdiction over the other islands. Around Longyang Island, there were 6 islands that were second only to it in terms of size and position. This Heavenly Spring Island was one of them. Never mind. Since I am already at Heavenly Spring Island, I might as well take a look. Red Cloud Island is just a small island. Whatever it can do, Heavenly Spring Island should be able to do as well. The two of them executed their movement techniques and quickly headed for Heavenly Spring Island. Along the way, Xiao Chen understood why Xia Xian and the black-robed cultivator ended up fighting. The name of the remnant forces of the Dark Church in the ancient desolate land had changed slightly. They were still called the Dark Church. There were many experts in the Dark Church. However, compared to the Dark Church in the past, they were much weaker. Not long ago, the Dark Church had gotten into a conflict with another faction in the ancient desolate land, the Blood Wolf Gang. Both sides had issued missions in the Heavenly Extermination Union to kill the other's disciples and obtain rewards. Xia Xian had come to this Heavenly Spring Island to do something. Coincidentally, she accepted the mission from the Blood Wolf Gang. Xiao Chen asked, "What rank is that black-robed cultivator in the current Dark Church? How many rewards can I obtain for killing him?" Xia Xian's figure flashed on the surface of the water. She said softly, "The Dark Church has 1 church master, 2 vice church masters, 9 elders, and 108 protectors. The rest are just a bunch of miscellaneous soldiers of varying strength. The one I just killed was one of the 108 protectors. However, the current protectors cannot be compared to the protectors of the past. The older protectors were at least half-step martial monarchs. Unfortunately, most of them are already dead. The one I just killed was just to make up the numbers." Given this, Xiao Chen had a rough idea of the current strength of the Dark Church. Even though it was much weaker than before, the 9 elders should all be martial monarchs. However, the 9 elders should all be martial monarchs. Furthermore, there were some protectors who had not died. Such a force was probably much stronger than the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Xiao Chen continued, "Why did they fight? Do such large-scale battles happen frequently in the ancient desolate land?" Chapter 421. Xia Xian smiled gently and said, "Haha. You really have a lot of questions. When I first arrived, I was the same as you. It's all about fighting for territory, islands, spirit veins, or rare treasures. It is very normal. After a while, you will not feel anything." The two chatted for a while. Then, they rushed at full speed and soon arrived at Dragon Spring Island. The island was very large, it could no longer be called an island. There were at least 10 cities the size of Whitewater City. Under Xia Xian's suggestion, Xiao Chen went to the largest city on the island. It was also named after the island, Dragon Spring City. "In that case, let's part ways here. Thank you again for helping me. If you have time, you are welcome to come to the Clear Spring Inn to look for me." After Xia Xian entered the city, she said goodbye to Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen nodded gently and headed to the shops in the city. Along the way, Xia Xian told him about the strength of the Holy Fire Manor. The Holy Fire Manor was considered a strong faction in the southern islands. However, compared to the Dark Church and the Blood Wolf Gang, which covered the entire ancient desolate land, they were much weaker. The manor lord of the Holy Fire Manor was a martial monarch. There was also a consecrator who was also a martial monarch. There were also 10 odd elders who were half-step martial monarchs. Old Qin was one of them. Given this, Xiao Chen felt more at ease. The chances of the other party sending an elder to capture him were not high. After all, Old Qin was only an elder. It would be difficult for him to order the other elders around. As long as half-step martial monarchs did not make a move, even if Xiao Chen faced a peak superior grade martial king, he would be able to leave easily. There were many people on the streets of the city. Most of them were ordinary people with low cultivations. However, there were many experts as well. There were many martial kings. Occasionally, one or two peak superior grade martial kings could be seen. What surprised Xiao Chen was that he saw many fiend race cultivators. These people looked very different from humans. For example, the barbarian ox race cultivators had small horns on their foreheads, the heavenly wolf race cultivators with silver eyes and pointy ears, and some fiend race cultivators who had not completely transformed. The fur on their bodies was very thick, and some even had long tails. However, when most people saw these fiend race cultivators, their expressions were very calm. They did not feel surprised at all. Even the ordinary people were not surprised. On the contrary, Xiao Chen looked around and seemed to be making a fuss about nothing. "Brat, what are you looking at? What's there to look at? Watch me tear you apart." A loud roar suddenly roared at Xiao Chen. The sound was like thunder, shaking everyone's eardrums. It was a burly tiger race cultivator more than 2 meters tall. He was bare-chested and had thick yellow fur all over his body. Seeing that Xiao Chen was looking at him curiously, he felt extremely displeased. He bared his teeth and shouted. He clenched his fists so hard that they crackled. Then, he charged at Xiao Chen with an aggressive aura. On the noisy street, this thunderous voice immediately attracted the attention of countless people. These people did not seem to find such a situation strange. When they saw that there was a commotion, they immediately went over. Xiao Chen could not help but feel somewhat embarrassed. He had not expected his curiosity to attract such trouble. Based on the aura of this tiger race cultivator, he was no weaker than a medial grade martial king. "Sorry, I just arrived in this ancient desolate land and was somewhat curious. I apologize for my rudeness. Here are 200 medial grade spirit stones. The less trouble, the better." Xiao Chen had offended the holy fire manner. Furthermore, this person had a few companions behind him. It would not be good if this matter blew up. Furthermore, Xiao Chen was indeed in the wrong in this matter. He looked at someone like they were monsters for no reason. Anyone would feel displeased. It would be fine if he could settle this with some spirit stones. That tiger race cultivator caught the bag that Xiao Chen tossed over and counted the spirit stones. He said, 200 is too little. Take out 1,000 medial grade spirit stones. Otherwise, you can forget about leaving here alive. So he is here to extort me. Xiao Chen's expression turned cold. He said in a cold voice, "Sorry, I have the spirit stones. However, I will not give them to you." The tiger race cultivator could not help but become enraged. He said, "You are really seeking death. Even if you hand over the spirit stones now, it is useless. Die!" The tiger race cultivator shouted and stomped on the ground. Small cracks immediately appeared on the street. His figure wavered as he punched at Xiao Chen. Bang! 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 It seemed like a ferocious tiger appeared on Xiao Chen's fist. Its aura instantly surged. The fist wind exploded, creating intense sonic booms in the air. Ka-ca. Just as Xiao Chen was about to make a move, a purple-clothed man jumped down from a restaurant at the side of the street. The purple-clothed man opened his palm and grabbed the other party's fist, easily neutralizing this punch with its overwhelming aura. No matter how hard the tiger race cultivator tried, he would not be able to move an inch. The purple-clothed man turned around and said to the tiger race cultivator, "Return the spirit stones to him, and you may leave." Jiang Zimo. When the tiger race cultivator saw the purple-clothed man's appearance, his expression immediately changed. He handed the bag containing the spirit stones to the purple-clothed man and turned to leave. When the surrounding people saw that there was no more excitement to watch, they all dispersed and went to do what they had to do. The purple-clothed man tossed the bag of spirit stones to Xiao Chen and smiled gently. "Don't be so generous next time. Here are your spirit stones. Xiao Chen caught the bag of spirit stones and looked at the handsome, imposing purple-clothed man. After thinking for a while, he said, "You are also a fiend race cultivator. Why are you helping me?" When the purple-clothed man, Jiang Zimo, saw that Xiao Chen saw through his identity, he was not too surprised. He smiled faintly and said, "I am not helping you. I am helping them. With your strength, even if their companions worked together, they would not be a match for you." Aside from the azure rhombus mark on this person's forehead, there were no other characteristics of a fiend race cultivator. In reality, when Xiao Chen said that the other party was a fiend race cultivator, it was only because of his strong mental energy. He could feel an aura that was different from that of a human from this person's body, but he could not confirm it. There was no way for Xiao Chen to confirm what kind of fiend race the other party was. Xiao Chen also felt it was strange. Why did some fiends not have any special characteristics? However, some of the fiend race cultivators had very obvious characteristics. There were also some that only had some special characteristics. Logically speaking, there should not be such a difference between fiends. Of the fiend race cultivators, the tiger race cultivators love to take advantage of others. They often threaten humans who come to the ancient desolate land for the first time. If you had only taken out 10 medial-grade spirit stones at the start, they would probably only ask for 100 medial-grade spirit stones from you. So, don't be so extravagant in the future. Jiang Zimo smiled faintly and explained unhurriedly. Xiao Chen smiled calmly and said, "In other words, I have become a sucker." "You can say that." Jiang Zimo shrugged his shoulders slightly and smiled faintly. "That's right, you should have received an invitation as well, right? If so, why don't you come up with me? We will be going the same way." Xiao Chen was somewhat confused. He asked suspiciously, "What invitation? I don't know what you are talking about. That should not be the case. The other party is so young, but his aura is very long. Furthermore, his mental energy is terrifyingly strong. Logically speaking, he should have received an invitation." Jiang Zimo felt somewhat confused. He gave Xiao Chen a deep look and said, "Do you dare to receive a palm strike from me?" Xiao Chen did not understand what was going on. However, he knew that the other party did not want to fight him. The other party only wanted to test him. After hesitating for a while, he happily agreed. After all, there would not be any losses. Perhaps, there might even be some unexpected benefits. Sorry for the offense. When Jiang Zimo saw Xiao Chen retreat by 100 meters, his figure flashed. Then, he sent a palm strike at Xiao Chen's face without any fancy moves. This palm strike did not have any fancy moves. It did not look very fast either, there was not even a palm wind. There were no energy fluctuations in the space, it was very simple. In terms of aura, it was not even 1% of the tiger race cultivators. The feeling it gave was very strange. It was like a child playing house. He said he wanted to hit him, and then he hit him. It was very ordinary. However, Xiao Chen's expression suddenly changed, becoming extremely grave. He was startled in his heart. He withdrew his essence, not letting it leak out at all. He focused all his energy on his palm. Such control was truly frightening. One had to know that there were countless pores on the palm. Regardless of whether one was aware of it or not, there would always be some aura coming out of the pores. However, Jiang Zimo managed to do it. Furthermore, when he attacked, his speed was very fast. However, there was not even the sound of wind. Clearly, he had truly reached the state of being one with nature. Even some martial monarchs would not be able to do such a thing. They would need at least 10 years of bitter cultivation and startling talent before they could do it. Jiang Zimo's palm had already arrived in front of Xiao Chen. There was no time to waste, there was no time to think. Furthermore, he agreed to receive this palm strike head-on. Thus, Xiao Chen could not use a trick like the roaming dragons and 9 transformations to dodge. He could only receive it head-on. Xiao Chen clenched his 5 fingers into a fist. His bones crackled as he gathered all the vital chi in his body. The image of a tiger and a dragon circled around his arm. The dragon and tiger roared. Unlike Jiang Zimo, who was extremely ordinary, Xiaochen raised his aura to the extreme. Since he could not completely withdraw his aura, he might as well release it with all his might. Bang! The fist and palm collided, and a strong wind blew. The instant Jiang Zimo's extremely ordinary palm strike clashed, it erupted with a force that could topple mountains and overturn the seas. A strong wind blew, and Xiaochen's hair band was blown off. His long hair fluttered in the wind, and his clothes fluttered. The strong wind made it difficult to open one's eyes. The huge force traveled from Xiaochen's arm to his feet. Then, it spread to the ground. Bang! 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 The stone tiles on the surrounding street suddenly exploded. It was dragged up by the strong chi and kept rising in the air. It spiraled around the two of them and kept spinning. Xiaochen's palm felt sore. He nearly got knocked back. It was hard to imagine that when one was extremely calm, it would erupt with such a strong might. Furthermore, Jiang Zimo's energy was endless, growing endlessly. It was like a gushing river surging towards Xiaochen. This cannot go on. The cultivation technique that Jiang Zimo cultivates is somewhat strange. The force of his palm strike is very uniform. From the start to the end, it did not weaken at all. Chapter 422. In terms of perseverance, Jiang Zimo would definitely last longer than Xiaochen. Xiaochen had to knock him back in one breath. Xiaochen opened his eyes wide and the purple chi whirlpool in his dantian spun rapidly. He merged his essence and vital chi together. The force in his palm immediately increased explosively. Boom! The sudden increase in strength caused Jiang Zimo's body to fly back 5 steps before he slowly came to a stop. Bang! Bang! The surrounding rubble also fell to the ground. After Jiang Zimo's palm strike ended, he stopped attacking. His expression was extremely calm. He did not even need to adjust his breathing before he walked over to Xiaochen again. Xiaochen withdrew his fist and relaxed. He adjusted his essence for a while before the surging energy in his body slowly calmed down. When Xiaochen saw Jiang Zimo casually sending out a palm strike, he could not help but feel even more curious about the cultivation technique that Jiang Zimo cultivated. Jiang Zimo performed a cupped fist salute and smiled, "Not bad. You are the first in the same generation to knock me back with one punch." Xiaochen smiled bitterly, "What do you mean not bad? I already did my best. Looking at your calm expression, you clearly only used 20% of your strength." Jiang Zimo smiled and explained, "There is no need to be humble. I also used my full strength. It is just that the cultivation technique I cultivate is rather special. Even if you beat me to the brink of death, I will still maintain this calm expression." When Xiaochen heard this, he could not help but smile. This person's words were really humorous. He was rather broad-minded, which suited Xiaochen's temperament. However, this cultivation technique was really strange. Using 20% of one's strength and using one's full strength would result in a completely different aura and might. The exhaustion was also different. No one would use their full strength the moment they started. If they did, their essence would be completely drained. Suddenly, a strange thought appeared in Xiaochen's mind. Jiang Zimo's full strength might last as long as Xiaochen's 20% strength. If that was really the case, then the other party's cultivation technique would be extremely horrifying. Jiang Zimo continued, "Your strength meets the requirements. It was their mistake not to receive an invitation. May I know your name? Which nation do you belong to? What sect do you belong to?" Xiaochen performed a cupped fist salute and said, "I am Xiaochen of the Great Qin nation. I do not have a sect for now." Jiang Zimo muttered Xiaochen's name. He found it familiar, but of course, he could not recall where he came from. "Brother Xiaochen, how about this? On the 17th of the next month, if you have time, go to the clear spring in's backyard. I believe you will be interested. I have a recommendation for you. Clear Spring Inn, isn't this the inn where Xia Xian is? Could it be that Jiang Zimo and Xia Xian are here for the same thing? Xiao Chen set aside this thought for now and raised his head. When he saw the dignified Jiang Zimo, he said with some doubt, speaking of which, this seems to be our first meeting. Is there a need to be so enthusiastic? Jiang Zimo laughed and said, are you afraid that I will harm you? That's right. Let's put it this way. On the 17th of next month, I'm not forcing you to come. If you're willing, just make some time to come. I promise you won't be disappointed. I'll take my leave first. Oh right, those Tiger Tribe members will probably ambush you later. Remember to go easy on them. With a light leap, Jiang Zimo returned to the restaurant. Xiao Chen did not linger and continued to head for the largest shop in the city. In the restaurant, a silver-haired woman stood in front of a table next to the window, looking at Xiao Chen's back thoughtfully. The silver-haired woman had a pretty face, as if she was a fairy that had fallen into the mortal world. Her temperament was otherworldly, but her silver eyes did not have the slightest hint of emotion, appearing extremely cold. When he saw Jiang Zimo, he asked anxiously, Zimo, who is that person? Which sect is he from? When Jiang Zimo saw the silver-haired woman's anxious expression, he was astonished. This was the first time he had seen the silver-haired woman so concerned about a human cultivator. Xinya, do you know this person? The silver-haired woman shook her head and said, he looks very similar to someone I know. However, his appearance is completely different. Jiang Zimo nodded and said, he is Xiao Chen. His strength is pretty good. However, he does not belong to any sect. When the silver-haired woman heard this, she felt somewhat disappointed. She said softly, oh, it looks like I got the wrong person. The person I know is surnamed Yi. There were many shops in the city that specialized in selling cultivator goods. Xiao Chen stopped in front of the largest shop. The shop was simple and unadorned. It was a majestic wooden building. There were many people coming and going. It was very lively. The golden signboard above the door had the words, Flowing Wind Pavilion written on it. Xiao Chen followed the crowd and entered. The shop was very large. Xiao Chen looked around. There were all sorts of goods in the hall on the first floor. There was a counter for spirit weapons. There were rows of wooden shelves filled with all sorts of spirit weapons. The ranks of the spirit weapons were all there as well. There were even several hundred profound ranked spirit weapons and above. Beside the counter for spirit weapons, there were shelves for all sorts of battle armors. The shelves for spirit weapons and battle armors formed a circular area for weapons. The circular area for weapons was in the center of the hall. The shelves along the walls had all sorts of spirit pills and herbs, as well as lingji of different ages. The entire arrangement was very scientific. When Xiao Chen stood there, he felt like he was in a supermarket in his previous life. However, it was more ancient than a modern supermarket, it was more natural. This young hero, are you looking for spirit weapons, battle armors, or custom-made weapons? Our shop is one of the few partners of the Heavenly Craft Manor in the ancient desolate land. We can fulfill any request you have. When a manservant saw Xiao Chen strolling in front of the weapons area, he quickly smiled and greeted him warmly. When this manservant spoke about the Heavenly Craft Manor, he was very pleased. It was like being able to work with the Heavenly Craft Manor was something incredible. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and said, I am not buying anything. I have something to sell. Will the Flowing Wind Pavilion accept it? The smile on the manservant's face did not change. He said, of course we will. Take the stairs over there. After you pass the treasure pavilion on the second floor, you will go up to the third floor. There is a professional appraiser there to help appraise the items. I guarantee that young hero will not suffer a loss. There were very few people in the treasure pavilion, it was less than half of the hall. Xiao Chen took a look and roughly understood what was going on. This treasure pavilion originally sold all sorts of cultivation techniques and martial techniques. There were also some inferior-grade secret treasures, some rare medicinal pills, and all sorts of high-ranked ores. They were all very expensive, so it made sense that only a small portion of martial artists could afford to buy them. Xiao Qin continued walking forward and arrived at the third floor of the Flowing Wind Pavilion. Compared to the second floor, there were even fewer people on the third floor. It was also much quieter, there was no bustle or clamor like the first floor. Everyone waited quietly. Xiao Qin sat on a wooden chair. Immediately, a maidservant came over to serve him tea. Her service was very thorough. Xiao Qin picked up the teacup and took a sip. Then, he asked the maidservant, "How long do I have to wait before it is my turn?" The maidservant smiled and said, "Young hero, in order to maintain the fairness of transactions, the appraisal hall of the Flowing Wind Pavilion can only entertain 3 customers at a time. Some treasures are very easy to appraise, while others are very difficult. It is hard to say how long it will take." Xiao Qin looked at the number of people waiting. It looked like it would take at least 2 hours. So, Xiao Qin put down the teacup and closed his eyes to take a nap. Fortunately, he was quite patient and didn't feel particularly bored. The people beside him, on the other hand, couldn't stay idle and started chatting. "Have you heard? The Holy Fire Manor's 7th elder, Qin Feng, led people to the demon battlefield to kill blood demons. They lost 3 half-step martial monarchs. The peak high-rank blood demon that they managed to kill with great difficulty was snatched away." Suddenly, someone mentioned the matters of the demon battlefield. The Holy Fire Manor was considered a major force in the southern islands. Upon hearing about the Holy Fire Manor, the others in the hall also became interested. A yellow-robed cultivator asked, "When did this happen? Why did we not hear any news about it?" News from a week ago, of course I wouldn't hear it. Right now, it has only spread to Monolith Island and Holy Fire Manor's headquarters, Holy Fire Island. I reckon it won't be long before it spreads to the entire southern islands." The green-robed cultivator who spoke first said proudly, "Who is so powerful? To be able to snatch away a peak high-rank blood demon from under the noses of 10-odd half-step martial monarchs, he must be at least a martial monarch." The green-robed cultivator laughed loudly and said, "Wrong, very wrong. Why don't you think about it? Why would a martial monarch want a peak high-rank blood demon's demon core? They have already opened their sea of consciousness. If they wanted to use it, they would use the demon core of a blood demon general. The demon core of a blood demon is not very useful to them. Then it must be a peak half-step martial monarch who snatched it away. Coincidentally, they need a peak high-rank blood demon's demon core to open their sea of consciousness." The green-robed cultivator continued, "Wrong again. The person who snatched away their demon core is just an inferior-grade martial king. Not only did he snatch away the demon core, but he also snatched away the 3 medial-grade secret treasures and the corpses of 3 half-step martial monarchs. How can this be? How could an inferior-grade martial king do all this under the noses of so many half-step martial monarchs? That is absolutely impossible. You are exaggerating." The people at the side all shook their heads and revealed doubtful expressions. They felt that the green-robed cultivator's words could not be trusted. The green-robed cultivator smiled faintly and did not bother to refute. "It is up to you whether you believe me or not. Soon, you will be able to prove whether what I said is true or not." This topic continued for a while. Then, someone brought up a new topic. "The trial of the ancient desolate tower seems to be starting again. I wonder how many people will qualify to enter this time. This time, there will probably be more people than in the past. There are too many geniuses in this generation. It will be difficult for the Great Gene Nation to continue dominating the 5-nation youth competition." "I don't think so. In the Tianmu continent, the Great Gene Nation has the most spirit veins. There will only be more geniuses. It will be difficult for the other 4 nations to occupy the top 10. Let's wait and see the results of the ancient desolate tower. If someone can reach the 7th floor, they will have a chance. It will be difficult." Aside from the group of people from the Thunder Emperor's time, no one has been able to reach the 7th floor in the past few thousand years. Right now, it is just the beginning of the flourishing era of cultivators. We will have to wait for at least another 10 years. Chapter 423. The trial of the ancient desolate tower is about to begin. Could it have something to do with Jiang Zimo and Xia Xian's matter? Xiao Chen opened his eyes. Xiao Chen revealed great interest in the topic everyone was talking about. So, he decided to ask about it. Young hero, it is your turn. At this moment, a charming young girl walked over leisurely and softly said with a smile. Xiao Chen could only give up for now. However, now that he knew the clues to the ancient desolate tower, it would be easier for him to find out more information when he came out. Xiao Chen stood up and followed the maidservant into a treasure inspection hall in front. When the cultivator in green who spoke first saw Xiao Chen suddenly stand up, he entered deep thought. Earlier, when Xiao Chen was sitting there, he did not attract his attention. However, when the cultivator looked at Xiao Chen's back, he started to think. They are all white-robed cultivators, inferior-grade martial kings, and no older than 20. Unfortunately, I do not see his saber, it should be in his spatial ring. The cultivator in green thought to himself, I should follow him closely. If he is really a bladesman, it is very likely that he is that person. Inside the treasure inspection hall, an old man was drinking tea. When he saw Xiao Chen enter, he smiled and said, I am the Flowing Wind Pavilion's old ma. Young hero, are you selling something? Take it out and let me see. Xiao Chen nodded and did not say anything. He pointed the universe ring at the center of the hall, and a large pile of items fell like rain. When the noise stopped, there was a 1-meter-tall pile of miscellaneous items in the hall. Old Ma nearly spat out the tea in his mouth. Old Ma swallowed the tea with some difficulty. His expression was somewhat unsightly as he said, Little brother, are you here to cause trouble? What kind of place is my Flowing Wind Pavilion? To think that you are using a pile of street goods to brush me off. Clearly, the other party did not think that all these items were valuable. He felt that Xiao Chen was here to make fun of him. Xiao Chen sat down calmly and said, whether they are street goods or not, you will know when you see for yourself. Seeing how confident Xiao Chen was, Senior Ma hesitated for a moment before squatting down dubiously. Then, he casually picked up a bottle of pills and looked at it. When Xiao Chen opened the bottle, a fragrance wafted out. Old Ma took a deep breath, and his expression changed. He said, this is a rank 6 medicinal pill, an earth spirit pill. When consumed by a martial saint, it can greatly increase their cultivation. It is worth 10,000 inferior-grade spirit stones. As he spoke, he quickly picked up a yellowing secret manual and read it. This is an inferior-grade earth-ranked cultivation technique. It can be used until Martial King. It is worth 100,000 inferior-grade spirit stones. There are also 10 low-grade earth-ranked spirit weapons. This is a 300-year-old snow ginseng, this is a battle armor, this is a high-grade earth-ranked martial technique, and this is a low-grade secret treasure. With every sentence that Xiao Chen spoke, Senior Ma's expression changed. How was this something that could be found in a street stall? He had really misjudged it earlier. Although the value of each item wasn't top-notch, a single one of them couldn't pique his interest at all. However, looking at the quantity, there were at least 1,000 of them. When added together, the value was startling. With so many miscellaneous items on one person, this person either robbed a strong clan or killed many high-ranked cultivators. Senior Ma's thoughts raced. When he saw that Xiao Chen was not even 20 years old, no matter which one it was, this youth's strength was unfathomable. He was not as simple as he looked. Senior Ma no longer delayed Xiao Chen like before. He stood up and performed a cupped fist salute. He said, sorry for the offense earlier. This old man misjudged it. I hope little brother does not take it to heart. Xiao Chen said indifferently, it's not a problem. Just help me appraise them quickly. I only do business, I do not care about anything else. It was unrealistic to rely on Senior Ma to appraise so many items by himself. Senior Ma called over a maidservant and gave her some instructions. After 1 hour, 10 young appraisers came out from the back door of the appraisal hall. Senior Ma explained, they were transferred from another branch. Don't worry. Don't look down on them because they are young. They should have no problems dealing with your items. Xiao Chen nodded and did not have any objections. 2 hours later, under the laborious appraisal of 10 appraisers, the various miscellaneous items in the forest were finally appraised. The 10 appraisers from the other branches took their leave. Now, only Xiao Chen and Senior Ma remained in the appraisal hall. Holding a list, Senior Ma looked somewhat fatigued. He said to Xiao Chen, "Little brother, take a look. They are worth a total of 3 million inferior grade spirit stones. If converted to medial grade spirit stones, that would be 25,000. These are the rules. You should know about them." Xiao Chen looked through the list and indicated that he had no objections. As for the so-called rules, Xiao Chen already knew about them long ago. Naturally, he would not say anything. Senior Ma smiled gently and said, "That's good. Take out your ancient desolate pass. We will sign it, and the spirit stones will be yours immediately." When Xiao Chen heard this, he could not help but be stunned. He had not expected the transaction to require an ancient desolate pass. He could not help but feel somewhat depressed. "I have not gone to apply for an ancient desolate pass yet. Can I make the transaction?" Senior Ma frowned slightly, clearly stunned. This youth had just arrived in the ancient desolate land. He had not even applied for an ancient desolate pass. This is a little difficult. It is not that this old man is making things difficult for you, but without an ancient desolate pass for such a large transaction, the taxes will be very high, Senior Ma explained softly. Since it was just a matter of money, then it was easy to resolve. Xiao Chen said, "How about this? Give me the receipt for 25,000 medial grade spirit stones. I will only take 20,000 medial grade spirit stones. How about that?" The miscellaneous items in this transaction could be considered extra gains for Xiao Chen. It did not matter how much he earned. It would be troublesome to apply for an ancient desolate pass later. Senior Ma understood. He knew why Xiao Chen was so generous. This pile of treasures must have been obtained from killing others. Now, he was in a rush to make a move. However, Senior Ma still reminded Xiao Chen, "You have to think it through. It will take you less than half a day to apply for an ancient desolate pass. You will be able to save 5,000 medial grade spirit stones." Xiao Chen shook his head and said, "There is no need. I have already made up my mind." After the two signed the contract, Senior Ma immediately took out boxes of spirit stones for Xiao Chen to count. After checking with his spiritual sense, Xiao Chen confirmed that the numbers were correct. Then, he tossed them into his universe ring. With this, Xiao Chen's universe ring became much emptier. He now had more than 150,000 medial grade spirit stones, 1 million inferior grade spirit stones, and 100 invaluable superior grade spirit stones. After leaving the inspection hall, Xiao Chen looked around. He saw that the cultivator in green had not left yet. Furthermore, when the cultivator saw Xiao Chen come out, his eyelids twitched. That's not right. A regular transaction would not take more than 15 minutes. Logically speaking, he should have left long ago. Xiao Chen noticed that the cultivators he was chatting with earlier had already left. All that remained were cultivators he was unfamiliar with. He knows about the situation on Boulder Island. He must be suspicious of me. Xiao Chen kept this in mind. His expression did not change as he walked down the stairs. Not long after Xiao Chen left the Flowing Wind Pavilion, his spiritual sense immediately detected a figure following him. It was that cultivator in green. This person is a superior grade martial king. If he sneak attacks me, he will pose a threat to me. However, since I have already noticed him, it is not a big deal. Coincidentally, he should know about the ancient desolate tower. If he tries to harm me, I can capture him and ask him about it. Thinking of this, Xiao Chen's lips curled up in an arc. He walked forward unhurriedly, pretending that he did not know anything. Soon, Xiaochen arrived at a rather desolate alley. When he saw the surrounding people and the desolate environment, he nodded slightly. This is the place. Bang! Just at this moment, four ferocious tiger race cultivators leaped out from both sides of the alley. They were tall and strong, and they surrounded Xiaochen from all directions. They were more than 2 meters tall, blocking the sunlight and casting a large shadow. They were the tiger race cultivators that Xiaochen had offended earlier. The tiger race cultivator that Jiang Zimo forced back earlier was filled with killing qi. He walked over to Xiaochen and smiled coldly. "Brat, I told you to hand over 2,000 medial-grade spirit stones first, but you did not. Now, I will chop off one of your legs and let you know what regret is. Is that so?" "Unfortunately, you are not able to do that." Xiaochen smiled faintly. Jiang Zimo was right. With a flip of his palm, the lunar shadow saber instantly appeared in his hand. The 4 tiger race cultivators were all medial-grade martial kings. When they worked together, they were quite strong. Unfortunately, with one look, it was clear that these people were not the core cultivators of the fiend race. They had not practiced any strong martial techniques or cultivation techniques. When Xiaochen used his full power, they did not stand a chance. After 15 minutes, the 4 tiger race cultivators lay on the ground, moaning non-stop. Occasionally, electricity flickered on the wounds of various sizes on their bodies. Following Jiang Zimo's instructions, Xiaochen did not deal a heavy blow. Although their wounds looked horrifying, they did not injure any vital points. He only taught them a lesson. Scram! I will only obey Jiang Zimo's words once. Don't let me see you again. Xiaochen returned the lunar shadow saber to its scabbard and snorted coldly. The tiger race cultivators felt like they had been relieved of a heavy burden. They knew they had kicked a metal plate, so they quickly got up and fled. Not bad, what a beautiful saber technique. Even when fighting 1 against 4, you are still able to hold an overwhelming advantage. At some point in time, the cultivator in green was already standing on the wall of the alley. The sunlight shone down from his back, obscuring his appearance. Xiaochen smiled faintly and said, "After following me for so long, you finally could not endure it any longer." The cultivator in green shrugged his shoulders. He was not surprised that Xiaochen noticed him. He asked, "Did you go to Boulder Island a week ago?" Xiaochen did not answer the cultivator in green's question directly. He took out the peak high-rank Blood Demon's demon core from his universe ring and said, "You want this, right?" The cultivator in green smiled and said, "Very good, you can die now. I will hand your head to the Holy Fire Manor and exchange it for a bounty. That will allow you to make the most of your value." After he spoke, the cultivator in green leaped down from the wall and chopped twice in the air. A sharp palm wind flew at Xiaochen like a sharp saber. Xiaochen drew the lunar shadow saber again. Purple electricity flickered as he chopped the palm wind in half. Huge whale palm. The cultivator in green shouted, and a faint mist appeared in the surroundings. The ground of the alley turned into soft water, rippling continuously. Xiaochen lost his balance and started to sway along with the water. What a powerful state of water! This person is not an ordinary superior grade martial king. No wonder he is so confident. Chapter 424. A huge whale made of quintessence appeared behind the green-robed guest. He pulled it out with his palm strike. The huge whale opened its jaws, revealing sharp teeth that gleamed with a cold light. Then, it charged at Xiaochen. The green-robed guest was very confident in this palm strike. He believed that with this palm strike, he would be able to kill Xiaochen quickly. The green-robed guest had already practiced this palm strike to 100% perfection. Furthermore, he cultivated the state of water. With these two complementing each other, the might of this move would be able to display a 1/12 of its might. Not only was it very mighty, but the strong mysterious phenomenon would also break the opponent's movement technique, preventing them from dodging. Several cultivators stronger than the green-robed guest had died under this palm strike. Even if an inferior-grade martial king could block it, he would be severely injured. Xiao Chen circulated his vital qi and rooted himself to the ground. He instantly increased his weight by 50,000 kilograms. Then, he firmly planted himself to the ground without any fluctuations. When Xiao Chen saw the huge whale flying at him, he did not dare to be careless. He circulated his state of thunder to its limits and thunder roared in the sky. Wu Kuei shakes the heavens. Xiao Chen shouted and hacked down with the lunar shadow saber. The divine Wu Kuei tree was like a mountain. It carried a boundless electric energy as it clashed with the huge whale. Of the Wu Kuei saber techniques, Wu Kuei shakes the heavens was the strongest move when clashing head-on. There were no techniques involved, it simply turned the vast state of thunder into a strong force. The stronger the state and the denser the essence, the stronger the might of this move. Since the other party wanted to clash head-on, then Xiao Chen would give him this opportunity. Let's see who was stronger. Bang! The huge whale made of quintessence clashed with the divine Wu Kuei tree. A strong force immediately burst forth. Thunder and water roared, and the walls of the alley immediately crumbled. The huge whale made of essence lasted for a moment before it scattered. However, the light of Xiao Chen's Wu Kuei tree dimmed slightly, but it did not disappear. The Wu Kuei tree landed on the ground with a "pa" sound. The rippling ground also calmed down. The other party's state of water was broken. The green-robed cultivator paled. He took a few steps back before he came to a stop. He could not believe that Xiao Chen had broken his palm strike. The green-robed cultivator suppressed the surging essence in his body and smiled coldly, "You have some strength. No wonder you can strengthen that demon core. However, you still have to die." Wild dance of whales. Waves of water instantly appeared on the ground. Those were not illusions, but real waves of water. Xiao Chen frowned slightly when he saw his pants soaked by the waves. He pushed off the ground, wanting to fly out. However, he discovered that there seemed to be a pair of invisible hands in the water grabbing his legs. More than 100 whales made of essence appeared behind the azure-robed cultivator. They hissed as their auras merged and soared into the sky. This chaotic dance of whales is comparable to an inferior-grade heaven-ranked martial technique. I can only use it once every 3 months. Unless you are a half-step martial monarch, you can forget about breaking out. Die! This chaotic dance of whales is comparable to an inferior-grade heaven-ranked martial technique. I can only use it once every 3 months. Unless you are a half-step martial monarch, you can forget about breaking out. Die! The green-robed cultivator laughed maniacally. More than 100 whales made of essence covered the sky as they flew towards Xiao Chen. The scarlet throne mark on Xiao Chen's forehead immediately appeared. His aura also changed. The state of massacre started to merge with the lightning. The purple and red lights on the lunar shadow saber flickered continuously. Ka Xie. The saber hovered above the water for a while. There was a flash of saber light, and the formless hands around Xiao Chen's legs were instantly chopped in half. State of massacre. The green-robed cultivator was startled. He quickly controlled the essence whales to move faster. The hundreds of whales suddenly accelerated midway. Xiao Chen grasped his saber with both hands and activated the blood flame shoes. Then, he quickly moved through the huge whales. Saber lights danced around, containing the killing chi of the state of massacre. With every saber strike, the essence whales were chopped into countless pieces. Boom! 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 Explosions resounded continuously in the narrow space. The berserk energy of water spread wildly in all directions. Xiao Chen executed the blue dragon cloud soaring art to its limits. He left behind afterimages in the air. With the help of the blood flame shoes, his speed reached Mach 3. 5. Xiao Chen was able to dodge the moment the essence whales exploded. It was like a storm raging on the sea. Huge waves soared into the sky as Xiao Chen moved around. However, he did not get hit by the waves. Instead, he hacked down with his saber. The boundless electric light and the state of massacre hidden in the electric light seemed to be suppressing the huge waves. Damn it! Unexpectedly, he comprehended two states at the same time. Furthermore, his speed is so fast. When the green-robed cultivator saw Xiao Chen hack apart the huge whales, he revealed a horrified expression. He hesitated for a moment, but when he looked in another direction, he persevered. Fortunately, he had made preparations in advance. He knew that this fellow could escape from 15 half-step martial monarchs. He should be a genius cultivator who could fight above his cultivation realm. Hence, when the green-robed cultivator made up his mind, he used a messenger bird to inform his companions. As long as he could hold on for a while longer, when his companions arrived, he would be able to capture this fellow. A peak high-rank blood demon's demon core was worth the risk. Whether it was sold or used to open his sea of consciousness, it would be worth cities. Thinking of this, the green-robed cultivator's expression slowly turned resolute. When Xiao Chen killed the final essence whale, his figure flashed. A palm wind rang out by Xiao Chen's ear. He sensed the other party attacking from an extremely tricky angle. Without turning around, Xiao Chen sent out an arc-light chop. A purple and red saber light moved in a strange arc, forming a semicircle that encased Xiao Chen's body. Bang! When the green-robed cultivator's palm wind struck the arc-light chop, it exploded. A shockwave blasted the green-robed cultivator back. Xiao Chen took advantage of this opportunity to quickly turn around. He looked at the pale green-robed cultivator and said calmly, "Even now, you still have not tried to flee. You still have companions, right?" The green-robed cultivator was startled. However, he did not answer Xiao Chen. Instead, he charged over again. From the other party's expression, Xiao Chen already knew the answer he wanted. He said indifferently, "You overestimate yourself. If you have not comprehended the state of water to its limits, you would not be qualified to fight me." Thunder rumbled as Xiao Chen took a big step forward. His aura flourished as he charged forward, using offense as defense. The berserk energy combined with the boundless state of massacre completely suppressed the green-robed cultivator's aura, forcing him to retreat continuously. Pu Ci. Finding an opportunity, Xiao Chen swung his saber and broke through the weakest part of the other party's palm wind, leaving a wound on his chest. Chop! With this strike succeeding, Xiao Chen did not give the green-robed cultivator a chance to react. He used the most direct move of the 8 saber techniques and hacked down diagonally. Paw! In the time it took for a spark to fly, the green-robed cultivator clasped his palms together and clamped down on Xiao Chen's saber. Xiao Chen smiled coldly to himself, "You dare to use your bare hands to clamp down on my saber? Thunder, explode!" The electric light infused with the state of massacre instantly exploded, easily breaking the essence that the green-robed cultivator had on his palms. As the electric light flashed, the green-robed cultivator's palms immediately swelled up. Xiao Chen's saber continued to hack down. A saber light flashed and landed on the other party's inner vest. ZZ. The scarlet electric light crackled and flickered on the saber, creating a long electric light. With the aid of the state of massacre, it easily broke through the other party's inferior-grade inner vest. The green-robed cultivator's skin tore open, leaving a 1-meter-deep wound on his chest. Blood and flesh were clearly visible. The electric light leaped around the wound, causing the green-robed cultivator's face to twitch in pain. Xiao Chen took a step forward. Before the green-robed cultivator could flee, he placed his saber on his neck. "If you don't want to die, then don't move. Answer my question." Dee-da. Dee-da. The green-robed cultivator's chest had a bone-deep wound. Blood dripped down continuously. His expression was one of extreme pain, but he did not seem dispirited. "Do you think I will believe you? If you want to kill me, then just kill me. I have long since come to this ancient desolate land. If I do not climb up by stepping on the corpses of others, I will die under the saber of others, becoming their stepping stone." The green-robed cultivator's resolve was rather high. However, Xiao Chen was still confident of getting the answer he wanted. As the saber pressed against the other party's neck, Xiao Chen moved forward a little. Do you think you have a choice? If you answer my question, I can buy you some time. Who knows, when your companions arrive, you might still have a chance to live. If you don't answer, I will kill you now. The green-robed cultivator's neck was scratched. As death approached, the green-robed cultivator's instinctive fear finally made him submit. Xiao Chen's final words ignited his hope. If his companions arrived early, they might be able to save his life. Ask away. Very good. What is going on with the ancient desolate tower? Tell me in detail, Xiao Chen said with a calm gaze. When the green-robed cultivator heard this, he could not help but heave a sigh of relief. He had thought it was some incredible secret. It turned out that it was just that. In that case, there was no need for him to continue pressing on. In Desolate City, there was a stone tower that had existed for an unknown period of time. It was said that it had existed since the ancient era. There were many mysteries in the tower. There were strong martial techniques, mysterious secret treasures, profound cultivation techniques, and even holy weapons that came from outer space. All sorts of things that cultivators dreamed of could be obtained in there. Cultivating in the tower could even increase one's cultivation speed. The tower had 9 floors. The higher one went, the more benefits there would be. Furthermore, the strangest thing was that this stone tower only allowed youths below the age of 25 to enter. Once one's bone age exceeded the limit, no matter what cultivation realm one had, even if it was Emperor Wu, one would not be able to enter. It was like a land of fortuitous encounters prepared for geniuses. The green-robed cultivator continued, of course, if you want to enter, there are many difficulties. The ancient desolate tower opens once every 2 years. First, you have to pass some external tests. Then, you have to compete for a limited number of spots. Finally, you have to pass the test of the ancient desolate tower itself. Hu Qi. Just as Xiao Chen was about to ask how to qualify for the test, a golden dart suddenly flew towards his forehead. The golden dart was very dazzling. It was like a golden sun. It hurt Xiao Chen's eyes. Chapter 425. Its speed was incredibly fast, reaching Mach 4. Furthermore, it contained an extremely tyrannical energy. Its aura was startling. It was not like a dart but a sword that could move the 9 heavens. It was incredibly dense. Everywhere it passed, it pierced through the air like it was a thin piece of paper, leaving behind a long, thin crack. Xiao Chen felt a dangerous aura. The black-winged blood flame eagle on the blood flame shoes flickered with light. His speed instantly reached Mach 4 as he dodged to the side. Xiao! A figure followed closely behind the dart. Then, he pulled the golden dart back. Then, he grabbed the cultivator in green and retreated at lightning speed. Just as Xiao Chen was about to give chase, a few auras of half-step martial monarchs came from the city and quickly headed in his direction. They should be the administrators of the city. They must have sensed the battle here and came to check it out. Not wanting to cause any more trouble, Xiao Chen quickly left in another direction. Qin Pengyu, why didn't you help me kill him? The cultivator in green questioned the cultivator beside him after he was rescued. The cultivator called Qin Pengyu played with a golden dart in his hand. He smiled faintly and said, "Let's go back first. I can only use my golden flash once a day. Furthermore, the people from the city lord's residence are here. Let's not talk about this anymore." Are you sure it is him? The cultivator in green nodded and said, I am sure. I saw him take out that peak high-rank blood demon's demon core. When Qin Pengyu heard that it was a peak high-rank blood demon's demon core, a greedy look flashed in his eyes. He said, that's good. Keep an eye on him first. We will make our move after he leaves the city. You can take this opportunity to recuperate. Give me 1 month. When my comprehension of the state of water reaches its peak, I will personally kill this brat, the cultivator in green said ruthlessly. Back in Heavenly Spring City, Xiao Chen spent some inferior-grade spirit stones to find a courtyard for cultivators. Aside from bedrooms, such courtyards also had specialized cultivation rooms, dueling grounds for practicing martial techniques, and all sorts of equipment for tempering one's strength. If one spent some money, one could even find a training partner. Inside the cultivation room, Xiaochen took out the firmament body tempering art. His strength had already reached 150,000 kilograms of force. After dealing with the miscellaneous items in the universe ring, it was time to practice this heaven-ranked body tempering technique. Xiaochen already had a rough idea of the ancient desolate tower from the cultivator in green. Without a doubt, it was a place that geniuses must go. Although they did not know how to get there, the most basic requirement was probably their own strength. If one didn't have the strength, even if they knew the way to enter, they wouldn't be able to pass the test. As for the clear spring inn that Jiang Zimo mentioned on the 17th of next month, it was likely related to this. Xiaochen also thought of going there to take a look. However, before that, raising his own strength was undoubtedly the most important thing. At the very least, Xiaochen was not confident of defeating Jiang Zimo. It would be difficult for Xiaochen to advance to medial grade martial king within a short period of time. This was because Xiaochen's foundation was much larger than that of ordinary people. If it were other inferior grade martial kings, their essence would be like a clear pond, and a regular genius's essence would be like a gushing river. However, Xiaochen's essence would be like a vast ocean. Aside from regular peak geniuses, very few could surpass Xiaochen. Just his heaven-ranked cultivation technique, the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation, could leave many people in the dust. Furthermore, Xiaochen had consumed all sorts of spirit herbs in the herb garden. As a result, his essence was much larger than that of a regular cultivator's. This made it even more difficult for Xiaochen to advance. It was like a tall building built from flat ground. Xiaochen's foundation was several times that of a regular cultivator's. Even if Xiaochen wanted to reach the 5th floor, he would spend more time than others. However, as long as he reached the height, the space inside would be several times that of a regular person. Thus, for the time being, Xiaochen intended to focus on tempering his physical body, focusing on cultivating the firmament body tempering art. The firmament body tempering art had a total of 12 layers. The first 3 layers were the foundation. They mainly strengthened the bones, flesh, and meridians. Starting from the 4th layer, the firmament body tempering art would increase the cultivator's vital qi. Every 3 layers was a huge hurdle. After every layer, one's vital qi would increase by leaps and bounds. Xiaochen closed the firmament body tempering art's secret manual and sat cross-legged on the prayer mat. Then, he closed his eyes. Xiaochen started to circulate the vital qi in his body. He followed the firmament body tempering art's method and started to cultivate the inferior grade heaven-ranked body tempering art. Vital qi was different from essence. In layman's terms, it was the strength that a cultivator could circulate when they were not using their essence. In reality, as long as one was an ordinary person, they would have some strength. However, only cultivators who cultivated the body tempering art would be able to skillfully control their vital qi. They would be able to circulate their vital qi like essence, achieving the effect of tempering the body. They would even be able to release their vital qi. They would be able to split mountains, shatter rocks, and fly. Of course, they would have to cultivate to a relatively deep realm before they could do that. 3 days later, Xiaochen successfully broke through to the firmament body tempering art's 1st layer. All the bones in his body crackled continuously, becoming even tougher and unbreakable. At the same time, Xiaochen's bones underwent an earth-shattering change. His bones started to tremble from the inside out. This feeling was extremely painful. It was like someone had stabbed a steel needle into his bones. All the bones in his body were pierced by tens of thousands of steel needles. Xiaochen clenched his teeth and endured. He did his best to prevent his mind from collapsing under this bone-shattering pain. The pain lasted for an hour before it slowly subsided. Finally, a warm current flowed quickly through his bone marrow. The earlier pain was swept away, making him feel very comfortable. If one looked carefully, one would discover that Xiaochen's delicate body had become even more robust. The lines on his face looked like they were carved by a knife. They were very sharp, very distinct, and very handsome. After enduring it, Xiaochen continued to work hard and started to break through to the firmament body tempering art's second layer. The first layer was tempering the bones. The second layer was tempering the blood. Blood referred to the flesh and skin, not just the blood. Time went by slowly. Xiaochen cultivated bitterly day and night. With the aid of the fasting pill, he even saved time for meals. In the blink of an eye, another 10 days passed. Xiaochen was finally about to break through to the firmament body tempering art's second layer. This was different from tempering the bones. The tempering of the flesh and blood did not cause much pain. It was just an unbearable itch. The skin and flesh on his bones wriggled continuously, making him restless. He wished he could stop breaking through immediately. Xiaochen's expression was very conflicted. He smiled faintly. It felt like there were countless caterpillars moving around in his flesh. Xiaochen guarded his mind and did his best to calm himself down, to forget that unbearable itch. This state lasted for 2 hours before it stopped. Xiaochen nearly could not endure it anymore. Compared to the pain of his broken bones, this feeling was even more unbearable. No wonder so many cultivators in the continent were not willing to cultivate the body tempering art. Just this kind of torture was enough to make a regular cultivator shrink back. After Xiaochen successfully broke through to the second layer, his flesh underwent an earth-shattering change. However, there were no obvious changes on the surface. However, the muscles on Xiaochen's arms and limbs started to swell. His originally delicate figure now looked much more muscular. Next up was the third layer. The third layer tempered the meridians. It was also the most important layer of the foundation. Meridians were the foundation of a cultivator. If the meridians were crippled, the cultivator would be crippled. No matter how powerful they were, they would not be able to use them. If a cultivator could truly temper their meridians, there would be many benefits. When the meridians became tougher, the cultivator would be able to use more essence and would not have to worry about the meridians bursting. The might of the various martial techniques would immediately increase by a level. This was the visible benefit. As for the invisible benefits, there were even more. Breaking through to the third level wasn't something that could be done in one go after a period of preparation. Instead, Xiaochen needed to continuously expand his meridians and prepare carefully at all times. He could not be too impatient or too timid. If he was too impatient, he would injure his meridians. That would be equivalent to crippling his cultivation. If he used too little, there would be no effect at all, it would just be a waste of time. Xiaochen needed to focus at every moment of the day, exhausting a large amount of mental energy. He could not relax for even a moment to expand and temper his meridians. After half a month, Xiaochen finally opened his eyes. He had a fatigued expression on his face. His eyes were sunken, and he did not look spirited at all. However, there was an unconcealable joy in the depths of his eyes. After persevering for half a month, he had finally reaped some benefits. Xiaochen had finally broken through to the third layer of the firmament body tempering art. After spending more than 20 days, he had completely laid down the foundations of the firmament body tempering art. All that remained was to consolidate his foundations and make preparations to break through to the fourth layer at any time. Although the difference between Xiaochen and Bai Lishi, who had managed to cultivate the fourth layer and break through to the fifth layer in 1 month, was quite large, Xiaochen was still very satisfied. It looked like with the help of the flowing light marigold, Xiaochen's comprehension ability had improved significantly. Otherwise, he would not have used only 20-odd days to cultivate to the third layer. Xiaochen stood up with much difficulty. He wanted to go out and take a breather to recover his mental energy. Who knew, the moment he took a step, his body would sway and he would collapse. Xiaochen struggled to keep his eyelids open. He felt sleepy and actually fell asleep on the ground. Half a month of intense mental energy exhaustion was much greater than Xiaochen had imagined. Even with his vast mental energy, he could not hold on for much longer. In reality, at such a cultivation realm, only Xiaochen would dare to expend energy like this day and night. No one else in the same generation would be able to do so. This sleep lasted for 2 days and 2 nights before Xiao Chen woke up. He had recovered most of his exhausted mental energy. Gurgle. Gurgle. Xiao Chen's stomach growled in hunger. He sat on the ground and smiled bitterly. The effects of the fasting pill have worn off for a few days already. I have to take a bath and eat a big meal to ease my hunger. Xiao Chen got up and walked out of the cultivation room. When he arrived at the courtyard, he rang the bell in front of the courtyard. Soon, a pretty maidservant walked over. This was a small courtyard for cultivators to cultivate in. It was provided by a very strong power. It had all sorts of services available. Naturally, there was food and hot water. Of course, this was all on the premise that one was willing to spend spirit stones. If one was willing to spend a lot of money, they could even provide a courtyard with spiritual energy comparable to the heavenly saber pavilions. Chapter 426. The maidservant looked at Xiao Chen and asked, "Young hero, do you have any instructions?" Xiao Chen said softly, "Prepare some hot water and a table of food." "That's right, help me call a sparring partner over as well." The maidservant remembered everything. After Xiao Chen finished, she said, "What rank do you need to be a sparring partner?" "The fees vary according to rank." Xiao Chen thought for a while before saying, "Peak Superior Grade Martial King." The maidservant was mildly startled. Peak Superior Grade Martial King, this youth is clearly only an inferior grade Martial King. He wants to find a sparring partner 2 ranks higher than him. Isn't he overestimating himself? Seeing that the maidservant did not move, Xiao Chen could not help but frown. He said, "What's wrong? Have they all been called away? In that case, you can bring a superior grade Martial King." No, there is someone. However, we will have to wait a little longer. The fee is 10,000 inferior grade spirit stones for 15 minutes, the maidservant quickly said after she recovered her wits. 10,000 inferior grade spirit stones for 15 minutes? To a peak superior grade Martial King, this was not particularly expensive. Xiao Chen took out the wooden box containing 5,000 inferior grade spirit stones. He said, "As long as someone comes, it is good. I do not mind waiting a little longer." The maidservant counted the spirit stones and placed them in her spatial ring. Then, she went to make preparations. The hot water arrived first. As Xiao Chen soaked comfortably in the bathtub, he completely relaxed. After soaking in the water, the fatigue from cultivating for half a month was completely swept away. His entire being felt refreshed, and he felt 100 times more spirited. After changing his clothes, Xiao Chen hesitated for a while as he prepared to put on the clear wind robes. It was not because his clothes were dirty. This kind of secret treasure had an automatic cleaning ability. It was definitely cleaner than washing it. Even ordinary holes could be repaired automatically. There would not be any problems even if he wore it for 10 years. The key was that the color of his clothes was too conspicuous. Back at the flowing wind pavilion, the cultivator in green had followed him because of his attire. After thinking for a while, Xiao Chen used a small technique in the shape-shifting spell to change the color of his clothes to blue. As for changing his appearance, Xiao Chen did not give it much thought. Even if he did not like it, it was not to that extent. It was just a holy fire manner. After going out, the table in the hall was already filled with dishes and wine. Not having eaten for a long time, Xiao Chen's appetite had greatly increased, and he devoured the food like a mountain sweeping away the clouds. After the food was completely digested, Xiao Chen slowly walked into the courtyard. At some point in time, a middle-aged man with an awe-inspiring aura was already standing there. Xiao Chen felt the other party's aura. Based on his cultivation, he was indeed a peak superior grade martial disciple. However, he did not know if his state had reached great perfection. "I'm Lu Yu. Can we begin?" The middle-aged man said indifferently. He looked at Xiao Chen from head to toe and did not pay any more attention to him. However, an ordinary inferior grade martial king was not worth paying too much attention to. Xiao Chen nodded and said, "Yes, I can." Lu Yu took out an hourglass and placed it upside down on the stone table. The sand started to fall slowly. His lips twitched as he said, "My time is limited. Whatever you want me to do, do it quickly. I am only good with my fists and legs. I can forget about weapons." A cultivator that was good with his fists and legs was what Xiao Chen wanted. "Just punch me with your full power." Lu Yu was stunned. He suspected that he heard wrong. Is this brat trying to be funny? What if I kill you? It was not that Lu Yu had never received such a request before. However, if he wanted to punch an inferior grade martial king, he would be seeking death. There is no need to overthink. I am confident. When Xiao Chen saw that Lu Yu did not make a move, he continued. Xiao Chen's physical body was originally made of dragon tendon tiger bones. Now that he had undergone the rebirth of a heaven-ranked body tempering cultivation technique, his defense and toughness had increased significantly. Xiao Chen urgently needed to know how strong his defense was. That way, he would be able to deal with it more easily in battle. Xiao Chen knew which attacks he needed to dodge and which he did not need to dodge. He could take advantage of the situation to counterattack, achieving an unexpected result in battle. Lu Yu did not waste any more time. He got into a stance and prepared to attack. Since Xiao Chen requested it, Xiao Chen would let him do as he pleased. However, he still held back 40 to 50% of his strength. If he really killed Xiao Chen, it would be hard to explain himself. He just wanted Xiao Chen to suffer a little and not be so arrogant. Hu Qi! Lu Yu shouted and his suppressed aura burst forth. A strong wind blew. When his aura surged, the fallen leaves and dust on the ground were instantly blown up. Lu Yu stepped forward and punched Xiao Chen's chest with a surging fist wind. Bang! As expected, Xiao Chen did not get knocked back. Instead, it was Lu Yu who felt like he had punched a pile of steel. It was extremely painful. When Lu Yu saw the calm and unmoving Xiao Chen, his face filled with shock. How can this be? Although I did not use my full power in this attack, it should be more than enough to deal with an inferior grade martial king who is 2 grades lower than me. Furthermore, the most important thing was that Lu Yu did not feel any fluctuations of Xiao Chen's essence. That was to say, Xiao Chen had relied on his physical body to block this punch. Xiao Chen frowned slightly and said, "Why did you not use your full power?" Lu Yu took 3 steps back and said with a grave expression, "In that case, as you wish. Don't blame me for being too heavy-handed." Lu Yu raised his aura to its peak and shouted. He leaped into the air and punched. Strong essence infused his hand. A long mark appeared in the air, giving off a piercing sonic boom. Its aura was very horrifying. Xiao Chen's expression turned grave. He circulated his vital qi and prepared to receive this punch. Boom! When the fist wind struck Xiao Chen's body, it gave off a thunderous explosion. Xiao Chen's body shook, but he did not move his feet in the end. The surging essence exploded in Xiao Chen's chest. Under the pain of the shockwave, Xiao Chen's clothes and hair fluttered continuously. Xiao Chen closed his eyes and felt the situation in his body. He discovered that his internal organs had moved slightly, but there were no major problems. Xiao Chen's bones and flesh had blocked most of the force from the essence. He had managed to block this punch. Xiao Chen opened his eyes. He did not want to waste any more time. He continued, "This time, I will continue to use my full power. You can use your martial techniques now. Let's start with the yellow-ranked martial techniques first." The rank of the martial techniques slowly increased. Before Lu Yu's somewhat numb expression, Xiao Chen raised it to a superior grade earth-ranked martial technique. After that, he infused his state into it. After testing it a few more times, Xiao Chen felt fatigued and called for him to stop. After testing it out, Xiao Chen had an accurate understanding of his bottom line. Without using his state, he could easily block a superior grade earth-ranked martial technique's attack. After using his state, if he continued to block it head-on, it would be significantly easier. At most, he would be severely injured after 3 times. Receive another punch from me, and you can leave. Remember to defend with all your might. Do not be careless. Lu Yu nodded and crossed his arms. He was no longer as careless as before. The other party had given him too much of a shock. If he got careless, he might end up suffering significant injuries. Xiao Chen clenched his fist tightly, and his bones crackled. He started to gather all the vital qi in his body. A purple qi whirlpool spun quickly, and essence flowed through his wide meridians and into his palm. After his meridians were widened, the amount of essence that he could instantly move was more than 20% more than before. This gave Xiao Chen a pleasant surprise. Xiao! Without any pause, Xiao Chen clenched his fist tightly. The instant his vital qi and essence merged, he punched out. Xiao Chen wanted to know how strong he could burst out with his current strength in the shortest time possible. Boom! An overwhelming force surged over. Lu Yu felt his arms tremble, and a huge force knocked him into the air. So. Lu Yu flew back several dozen meters. After he landed, he took a few more steps back before he managed to stabilize himself. Lu Yu felt pain in his hands. Both of his arms had been fractured. His bones had snapped in half. He would need at least half a month to recover. Lu Yu's expression was somewhat horrified. He thought to himself, that's 350,000 kilograms of force. This fellow did not even have time to store up energy. Unexpectedly, he managed to unleash 350,000 kilograms of force in one go. In the end, I still underestimated him. If he had used all his might to defend, his arms would not have fractured. This deal was a complete loss. Widening my meridians can indeed increase my explosive power. In the past, I could only unleash 250,000 kilograms of force by merging my vital qi and essence. Now, it has increased by 100,000 kilograms of force. The firmament body tempering art truly lives up to its name as a heaven-ranked body tempering cultivation technique. Xiao Chen revealed a joyful smile. When Xiao Chen saw Lu Yu's broken arms, he took out 3,000 medial-grade spirit stones and said, "Sorry for injuring you. Consider this a small compensation." Lu Yu's pale complexion finally revealed a smile. He swept the spirit stones into his spatial ring and said, "Thank you, brother. Goodbye." After that, Xiao Chen flew off to find someone to reconnect Lu Yu's bones. Xiao Chen looked outside the courtyard and muttered, "It will be the 17th the day after tomorrow. With my current strength, I should have a 50% chance of defeating Jiang Zimo. I think I should be strong enough to make a trip to the Clear Spring Inn." However, before Xiao Chen went, he had to settle something first. He had to get an ancient desolate pass. Xiao Chen now understood the importance of an ancient desolate pass. Not only did he need it to pay taxes in the city, but he also needed it to do business in the shops. Even now, he had to pay a lot more spirit stones to stay in this cultivation courtyard because he did not have an ancient desolate pass. Xiao Chen finally understood the inconvenience of not having an ancient desolate pass. After calling over a maid, Xiao Chen asked for the location of the Heavenly Extermination Union in the city. Then, he immediately left the cultivation courtyard. In an inn in Heavenly Spring City, the green-robed man and Qin Pengyu were currently chatting at a table on the second floor. This brat has been hiding in the cultivation courtyard for almost a month. I wonder how much longer he will have to hide. If the Holy Fire Manor's people find him first, he will have nothing left. The green-robed cultivator drank a large mouthful of wine as he spoke somewhat depressedly. Qin Pengyu, who sat opposite the green-robed man, appeared rather indifferent. He smiled coldly and said, "Don't worry. The Holy Fire Manor will not look for him immediately. He cannot possibly remain in the cultivation courtyard forever." After they parted ways with Xiao Chen that day, the two immediately sought out a local intelligence clan. They spent a large sum of money to obtain information on Xiao Chen's whereabouts. After that, they waited for a long time. The green-robed cultivator smiled sinisterly and said, "Although my state of water has not reached its limits in 1 month, I have cultivated the medial grade earth-ranked autumn water art to the 7th layer. If I meet this brat again, I will be able to deal with him in 10 moves. Chapter 427. When Qin Pengyu heard this, he was slightly startled. Medial grade earth-ranked cultivation techniques normally only had 7 layers. If that was the case, the other party had cultivated a medial grade earth-ranked cultivation technique to the limit. This is not easy to deal with. Although the superior grade earth-ranked cultivation technique I cultivate has 9 layers, I have only cultivated it to the 8th layer. There is still a gap between me and the 9th layer. Given this, I do not have much of an advantage in terms of cultivation techniques. I can only think of other methods. Seeing Qin Pengyu remain silent, the cultivator in green smiled coldly to himself. How could he not know what Qin Pengyu was thinking? The green-robed cultivator tapped his finger on the table a few times. He squinted his eyes and looked at Qin Pengyu. I advise you not to have any other thoughts. Just obediently kill this brat and split the treasures. Don't forget that this brat has many good things on him. Qin Pengyu smiled embarrassedly and said, how can that be? You are overthinking. This brat is not that easy to deal with. If he has any other thoughts, both of us will die at his hands. The cultivator in green snorted coldly and said, it's good that you know. Dong! 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 Just at this moment, a shifty-eyed, skinny man came up to the 2nd floor. He looked around and saw Qin Pengyu and the cultivator in green. He pretended to walk over casually and handed over a note. Then, he wandered around the restaurant twice before slowly leaving. The cultivator in green said, the people of the Wind Surveillance Hall are really cautious. Even a manservant is so cautious. No wonder they can stand firm in Heavenly Spring City. Qin Pengyu opened the note. After he finished reading it, he revealed a faint smile. The latest news is that this brat has come out. He is rushing in the direction of the Heavenly Extermination Union. The cultivator in green's eyes lit up. He smiled and said, this brat should have gone to apply for an ancient desolate pass. Previously, I overheard in the Flowing Wind Pavilion that a white-robed youth did not apply for an ancient desolate pass and ended up losing spirit stones in the great competition. Qin Pengyu used his essence to crush the note into powder. Then, he muttered, it is more troublesome to apply for an ancient desolate pass in Heavenly Spring City than outside. He has to complete a mission first, and he has to leave the city. The location of the Heavenly Extermination Union's branch in the city was very easy to find. It was just beside the city lord's residence. It was a vast, circular building that was much taller than the city lord's residence. From afar, one would be able to see it with a single glance. However, the city lord's residence could not. Comparing the two, it was clear whose position was higher. Inside the spacious gate, there were streams of people, but there were only people going in and no one coming out. Although there were many people, it was not chaotic at all. Every floor above the 2nd floor had 8 doors and windows. Occasionally, cultivators would fly out from them. It looked like this was the exit of the Heavenly Extermination Union. Xiao Chen found a receptionist on the 1st floor and explained his purpose. The receptionist immediately led him to a counter on the 2nd floor. Since you want to come to Heavenly Spring City to apply for a pass, then we will follow the rules. You can choose any one of the missions on the wall over there, the old man behind the counter said with an indifferent expression. Xiao Chen looked in the direction of the old man's finger and saw 7 walls of different colors. There were many cultivators gathered in front of each wall. The old man continued, you are a martial king. There is no need for you to look at the missions on the white walls. You can only choose from the walls behind. Through the receptionist's words, Xiao Chen understood the rules. If he was in a border city of the ancient desolate land, like Underworld City, he would only need to register his identity to apply for a pass there. If one wanted to apply for a pass there, one only needed to register one's identity. After entering the Heavenly Extermination Lake, there were different rules for each place. The rule of Heavenly Spring City was that one had to complete a mission for the Heavenly Extermination Union for free. Of course, the rank of the mission would not be very high. Xiao Chen could not help but feel regret. Since he was already here, he might as well take things as they came. Xiao Chen did not feel any resentment. There were the most cultivators in front of the first white wall. Most of them had low cultivations. They were all martial saints, standing there and watching. Xiao Chen arrived at the second blue wall. Most of the missions on the wall had already been accepted. The remaining ones were all difficult and unrewarding missions. Xiao Chen stared at the wall for a long time. Then, he tore a mission slip that was stuck on the wall. The requirement of the mission was to collect 10 stalks of illusionary yin grass. The reward was 500 medial-grade spirit stones. The illusionary yin grass was one of the main ingredients for refining the poison shadowless pill. A peak rank 6 spirit beast, the dazzling shadow leopard, guarded the area where it grew. The dazzling shadow leopard was not very strong. However, it was good at concealing itself. Furthermore, it usually moved in pairs and was not easy to deal with. The mission was troublesome and the reward was low. As a result, the mission slip had remained on the wall for a few days. However, Xiao Chen did not feel any pressure. He had the help of his spiritual sense. The most troublesome concealment technique of the dazzling shadow leopard was not difficult for him. That dazzling shadow leopard was only a peak rank 6 spirit beast. To Xiao Chen, it was not difficult for him to deal with it. The old man behind the counter received the mission slip from Xiao Chen. The indifferent expression on his face warmed up. He smiled and said, "This is a troublesome mission. However, you have helped us a little. Leave your name and a drop of blood. After you complete the mission, you will be given the pass." After everything was settled, Xiao Chen took the mission slip and descended from the window. The mission slip had the address of the illusionary yin grass. It was in the inner valley of the Heavenly Spring mountain range in the west of the city. This saved Xiao Chen a lot of trouble. After Xiao Chen left the city, he rushed towards the Heavenly Spring mountain range. The mission was rather simple, so Xiao Chen did not think of any schemes. He just needed to go there and use his strength to suppress them. Up on the city wall, Qin Pengyu and the cultivator in green watched expressionlessly as Xiao Chen left. The cultivator in green said, "According to the news from the Wind Whispering Hall, this fellow accepted the mission for the illusionary yin grass. We have already confirmed the location. However, this brat's mental energy is very strong. I'm afraid I will be discovered before I get close." The last time the cultivator in green followed Xiao Chen had discovered him in advance. This time, he was somewhat worried. Qin Pengyu took out 2 bottles of medicinal pills and smiled confidently. "I came prepared long ago. This is a medicinal powder refined from sage-tail grass. If you sprinkle it on your body, even a regular martial monarch would not be able to sense it." The cultivator in green immediately revealed a joyful smile. He said, "You are really willing to part with your capital. With this medicinal powder, this brat will definitely die. If I am unwilling to part with the bait, how can I catch a big fish? Let's go. Don't let him get too far behind." The Heavenly Spring mountain range was filled with lone peaks. However, they were not more than 2 kilometers tall. However, the mountain range stretched for hundreds of kilometers. Xiao Chen spent 4 hours before he found the valley where the illusionary yin grass grew. When he scanned it with his spiritual sense, he immediately discovered the illusionary yin grass. What a fellow! There are actually more than 10 dazzling shadow leopards. That is equivalent to a small tribe. No wonder no one came to accept this mission. Xiao Chen withdrew his spiritual sense and exclaimed in surprise. It looked like the cultivators here were all very cunning. However, there were many illusionary yin grass as well. Xiao Chen had more than enough to collect 10 stalks. His efforts were not in vain. In the surroundings of the illusionary yin grass, there were invisible figures moving about in the air. There were not even any footprints on the ground. No one could detect them with their normal senses. This was the dazzling shadow leopard that gave ordinary cultivators a headache. With more than 10 dazzling shadow leopards gathered together, even a half-step martial monarch would find it difficult to deal with them. Xiao Chen had to think of a way to separate them. Xiao Chen casually punched the ground, and rocks of various sizes immediately shot out. Xiao Chen took out a carving knife and started carving carefully. Soon enough, dozens of lifelike stone eagles appeared. Life bestowal spell. Xiao Chen formed hand seals and shouted. The stone sculptures on the ground instantly came to life. They pounced at the group of dazzling shadow leopards. Shaw! Shaw! There was a lot of noise. When the eagles pounced, the entire group of leopards fell into chaos. 2 dazzling shadow leopards were lured away. By the time the dazzling shadow leopards shattered the eagles, they were already several kilometers away from the valley. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and drew his lunar shadow saber. Boom! 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 There were loud explosions on the ground as electric light flashed. Without the advantage of being invisible and alone, Xiao Chen did not have to spend much effort to kill these dazzling shadow leopards. After 45 minutes, the corpses of 2 dazzling shadow leopards appeared on the ground. Xiao Chen dug out their spirit cores and continued killing dazzling shadow leopards. 4 hours later, there were no more dazzling shadow leopards in the valley. They had all turned into spirit cores in Xiao Chen's universe ring. Xiao Chen took out an inferior-grade spirit stone and quickly replenished his exhausted essence. Then, he started to pick the illusionary yin grass. However, just as Xiao Chen was about to make his move, the massacre throne in his sea of consciousness trembled slightly. Xiao Chen's expression turned grave. He held the lunar shadow saber horizontally in front of him, his face filled with wariness. Xiao Chen scanned the area within a kilometer with his spiritual sense a few times. Finally, he found the hidden Qin Pengyu and the cultivator in green on a towering tree. There were no energy fluctuations coming from the 2 of them. It looked like they used some kind of medicine to evade the detection of mental energy. Xiao Chen smiled coldly to himself. His spiritual sense was different from regular mental energy. It was like his eyes. Unless one had a special secret treasure, no one would be able to block his detection. Qin Pengyu put away the flashing golden light in his hand and frowned. This fellow is too sensitive to killing qi. He should have discovered us already. It's fine. Now that we are within a kilometer of him, he has no chance to escape. We will crush him head-on. The 2 of them no longer hid themselves. They spread their arms and leaped off the tree, quickly flying toward Xiao Chen. So. The 2 of them flashed in the air a few times. In 3 breaths of time, they covered the distance of a kilometer. The cultivator in green looked at Xiao Chen and smiled coldly. I have been waiting for you for a long time. You are destined to regret not killing me that day. Xiao Chen ignored the cultivator in green's words. He looked at Qin Pengyu, who was beside him. The dart that Qin Pengyu used that day had left a deep impression on him. If it were not for the blood flame shoes that could increase his speed, Xiao Chen would not have been able to dodge it in a short time. However, with the force of his saber, he should be able to deflect that dart. Qin Pengyu said indifferently, "Little brother, hand over the peak high-rank blood demon and the secret treasure, and you may leave. You are so young and have such a cultivation. Your future is bright. You have to know that a dead genius is no longer a genius." Xiao Chen smiled gently and said, "A dead genius is indeed no longer a genius. However, you are not qualified to say that." Chapter 428. Stubborn Fool. Huge Whale Palm. Seeing that Xiao Chen was unwilling to agree, the cultivator in green immediately executed the killing move that he had been preparing in secret. A watery light filled the air, and ripples appeared on the ground. They looked like waves, rising and falling. This was the result of the other party infusing his state into his martial technique. The lines on the skin of the huge whale formed from essence were clearly visible. Its sharp teeth flickered with a cold light. It looked very real. Xiao Chen's eyelids sank slightly. The essence of this cultivator in green was much stronger than it was in the past month. However, it was unfortunate that he ran into Xiao Chen. In the past month, Xiao Chen's improvement was much greater than his. This fight was destined to end in tragedy. The pure state of thunder and saber technique of the lunar shadow saber merged continuously. Surging essence burst out uncontrollably. With the expansion of his meridians, the amount of essence that Xiao Chen could move in an instant increased by 20%. Naturally, the might of his saber technique increased as well. When Xiao Chen swung his saber, electricity surrounded the saber. Pu Qi! Pu Qi! Countless arcs of electricity shot out from the saber. Purple arcs of light tore through the air, and the power of thunder spread out. The entire space seemed to be covered in a layer of electricity. The hidden weapon in Qin Pengyu's hand gave off purple arcs of electricity, giving off a zzz sound. His fingers actually felt numb from the electricity. How strong is this brat's state of thunder? Why does it seem like it completely suppresses the state of water? Qin Pengyu thought in astonishment as he circulated his essence and eliminated the electric arcs. Xiao Chen shouted and stomped on the ground. His essence merged with his strength, instantly reaching 350,000 kilograms of force. Bang! 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 The undulating waves on the ground immediately quietened down. The entire hill shook continuously. The green-robed cultivator's state of water was crushed by the force of Xiao Chen's stomp. Break! Xiao Chen moved to the side and stabbed his saber into the right side of the huge whale made of essence. Then, he leaped up and the saber left a long arc of electricity in the huge whale's body. The electricity crackled and flickered continuously. Every time it flickered, the luster of the giant whale became much dimmer. When Xiao Chen pulled out his saber, Xiao Chen's eyes lit up. The giant whale exploded with a crisp sound. Xiao Chen's essence qi shook and dispersed the shockwave formed by the giant whale. It was extremely domineering. On the other hand, the azure-robed cultivator was blasted back by the shock wave. Qin Pengyu also flew backward. Kill! Xiao Chen's eyes narrowed, but he didn't stop at all. With a soaring aura, boundless lightning flashed, and lightning surrounded his body. He was like a god of thunder as he charged forward. The azure-robed cultivator was greatly startled. He had not expected Xiao Chen, who needed some time to cripple his gargantuan whale palm a month ago. Now that the giant whale palm had been strengthened, Xiao Chen felt even more relaxed. He did not even need to use the state of massacre. The green-robed cultivator stood firmly and looked at the surging aura of Xiao Chen. Not daring to hold back, he raised his aura to the limit. The azure-robed cultivator shouted and charged forward. Then, he sent out 6 palm strikes at lightning speed. With each palm strike, a giant whale made of essence appeared out of nowhere. Xiao Chen sent out 6 palm strikes in a row. The 6 essence whales connected their heads and tails, forming a long line as they charged at Xiao Chen. Soul extinguishing 5 poison. Qin Pengyu, who had been holding back for a while, finally made his move. His figure flashed 5 times in the air, and 5 darts flickering with dim multicolored lights flew at Xiao Chen from 5 different angles. The dim multicolored lights were all different, looking incredibly strange. Clearly, they were all venomous. The angles at which they shot out were also very tricky, and their speeds varied as well. The 5 darts connected one after another. Even if Xiao Chen dodged one, he would not be able to dodge the other. The angles and speeds were all calculated to their limits, there was no way to dodge them. Immediately, there were 6 giant essence whales with vast auras in front of Xiao Chen. If he was not careful, there might be a chain of explosions. The might of the explosion of 6 essence whales was easy to imagine. Then, there were 5 more darts that Xiao Chen could not dodge. He could only receive them head-on. His path of retreat was blocked, he had nowhere to retreat to. Xiao Chen's expression remained calm as he thought quickly. In an instant, thousands of scenarios appeared in his mind. Then, he quickly reacted. Ding-dang! Ding-dang! Xiao Chen executed the azure cloud soaring dragon art. His figure spun around and turned into a huge electric storm. The 5 darts were instantly repelled. Chi! Chi! When the darts passed through the trees, a black chi spread out. Those trees immediately lost all signs of life and withered. When the azure-robed cultivator saw the situation, he could not help but smile. If Xiaochen dodged the darts, he would not be able to dodge this chain of whales. Even a half-step martial monarch would not dare to face the might of 6 whales exploding together. Qin Pengyu's face sank slightly, but he did not get careless. A golden dart appeared in his right hand. Then, he pushed off the ground and landed on the top of a tree, waiting for an opportunity to strike. After knocking back the 5 darts, the huge whale made of essence was already less than a meter away from Xiaochen. There was no time for him to dodge. The surging aura combined made it difficult to breathe. The ferocious aura caused Xiaochen's hair to flutter wildly. Ka-cha! Xiaochen sheathed the lunar shadow saber and stabbed it into the ground. A golden image of a tiger and a dragon appeared on Xiaochen's body. They coiled around each other and roared endlessly. Xiaochen clenched his fists tightly and looked at the huge whale flying at him. He took a deep breath and punched. Bang! 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 Explosions resounded one after another, creating huge pits in the ground. Dust and rocks flew into the air. However, the scene that the azure-robed cultivator had imagined, the 6 whales exploding together, did not happen. This was because every time Xiaochen destroyed an essence whale, he would use his body to withstand the impact of the essence. Xiaochen quickly destroyed an essence whale, not showing any intention of retreating. He continued forward, punching 6 times. Chaotic dance of whales. When the azure-robed cultivator saw Xiaochen emerge from the cloud of dust without any injuries, he did not think too much. He was about to execute his killing move. The black-winged blood flame eagle in the blood flame shoes flashed, and Xiaochen's speed increased by 20%, reaching Mach 4. As the azure-robed cultivator rushed forward, Xiaochen kicked the azure-robed cultivator's right head. Bang! The half-executed chaotic dance of whales was immediately broken. The azure-robed cultivator vomited a mouthful of blood as the kick knocked him into the air. Using the might of a medial-grade secret treasure, the speed and strength of Xiaochen's kick reached the peak of a martial king. A half-step martial monarch would not dare say they could block it. When the azure-robed cultivator landed on the ground, he was no longer breathing. The force of Xiaochen's kick had shattered half of his head. The brain was a vital point of a person. Since half of it was shattered, naturally, the azure-robed cultivator was dead. A clump of red light instantly entered Xiaochen's forehead. The azure-robed cultivator's talent was average. He did not have a good opportunity to cultivate a peak cultivation technique. The longer this dragged on, the greater the gap between him and Xiaochen. From the very start, Xiaochen had not considered the azure-robed cultivator a threat. Now that he had kicked the azure-robed cultivator to death, he did not feel anything. Xiao! An intense sense of danger came. A dazzling golden sun appeared behind Xiaochen from nowhere. The dazzling light was so bright that no one dared to look at it directly. Qin Pengyu had finally brought out his golden flash, which could reach Mach 4. He had seen Xiaochen use the secret treasure on his leg. Xiaochen would not be able to use it a second time within a short period of time, so he did not hesitate to make a decisive move. Xiaochen closed his eyes and turned around in an instant. He landed beside the lunar shadow saber and grasped its hilt with both hands. Then, he drew it. Xiaochen's series of actions were like flowing water. There were no obstructions at all, it was extremely smooth and natural. A dazzling purple light flashed. The saber erupted with a purple light that was even more dazzling than the golden flash. Ka-xie. The light extinguished, and there was a melodious sound. The golden dart split into 2 and fell to the ground. Shock filled Qin Pengyu's face. He had not expected Xiaochen to chop this peak inferior grade offensive secret treasure in half with one saber strike. Under an attack that was 4 times faster than the speed of sound, How much explosive power would it take to split a person in half with a single slash? Qin Pengyu felt horror in his heart. He did not care whether the azure-robed cultivator lived or died. He turned around and ran. Xiao Chen suddenly opened his eyes. A bloody hole appeared on Qin Pengyu's left chest. Blood flowed out continuously. A purple flame burned on the wound, preventing the essence from healing him. In his panic, Qin Pengyu ignored the wound and continued to run. "You think you can run?" Xiao Chen snorted coldly, and a 1-meter-long flying sword appeared in his palm. He leaped out, and a basketball-sized wound appeared on Qin Pengyu's chest. Then, he slowly fell over. Xiao Chen removed the spatial rings from the two's hands. He could not be bothered to look at them, so he casually tossed them into the universe ring. Then, he started his unfinished business, picking the illusionary Yin grass. The largest restaurant in the city, the Clear Spring Inn, closed early on the 17th of the month. A sign saying, "Temporarily closed," was erected at the entrance. 2 rows of expressionless black-clothed cultivators stood at the entrance. Occasionally, youths would step forward and hand over their invitations before entering. The crowd on the street stood on both sides of the street. They did not understand what was going on. However, based on the atmosphere, it was clear that something big was about to happen. The person who just entered seems to be the great Xia nation's Thousand-Sword Pavilion Xia Xian. This girl is a rare genius of the Thousand-Sword Pavilion. She comprehended sword intent at the age of 16. Now, she is an influential person of the great Xia nation's younger generation. She is one of the hot favorites for the top 20 of the 5-nation youth competition. There is also the great Chu nation's heavenly sword gates Ding Fengqiu and Jin Wuji. These two are here as well. They were in the top 100 of the previous Qianwu ranking. The great Tang nation's beast-taming abodes people are here as well. That fellow seems to be the second disciple of the beast-taming abodes sect master. He is very strong and is one of the top experts of the great Tang nation. That seems to be the Holy Fire Manor's young manor lord, Lin Yun. He is ranked 4th among the younger generation of the southern islands. Unexpectedly, he is here as well. What is going on? Why is he being so mysterious? The crowd watched as the youths handed over their invitations and entered. The more they talked, the more they felt that something big was about to happen. The people who entered the Clear Spring Inn were all young geniuses of the various nations. Aside from the great Jin nation, there were many geniuses from the other 4 nations. Could it be related to the opening of the ancient Desolate Tower? The ancient Desolate Tower opens once every 3 years. It seems like it is about time for it to open. Suddenly, someone in the crowd thought of something and said excitedly. Chapter 429. That's right. That must be it. Otherwise, why would so many youths come here? However, the number of people invited this time might be at least 3 times that of the previous one. The age of geniuses has already sprouted. After 10-odd years, those geniuses have all grown up. The Heavenly Extermination Union will definitely invite more people. I just don't know what the test will be this time. Will there be a few more slots? The others all agreed. They were certain that the matter at the Clear Spring Inn had something to do with the ancient Desolate Tower. A huge arena stood in the middle of a spacious backyard behind the Clear Spring Inn. It was several hundred meters long and wide. There were some tables and chairs around the arena. Boom! 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 2 young swordsmen with unfathomable strength and long auras were currently exchanging moves in the arena. The violent energy, along with the collision of the weapons, stirred up energy shock waves that overflowed in all directions. Just as the shock waves were about to break through the arena, a formless barrier blocked them. Ripples appeared around the arena. It turned out that there was a strong barrier protecting the arena. This allowed cultivators to fight without worry about the strong energy destroying the surrounding buildings. Thunder Wind Sword Flash. 9 Yang Sword. Boom! The 2 of them shouted and raised their auras to the peak. They executed their killing moves. Surging sword chi clashed with each other, giving off a chain of explosions. Sword chi flew everywhere in the arena, as well as boundless sword images. The two of them exchanged dozens of moves in the midst of the strong sword dance before they slowly stopped. Both of them stood firmly. After a series of exchanges, they were evenly matched. They no longer had any desire to continue. Furthermore, it was not yet time for them to make a move. Lu Chunsheng, it has been 3 years. Your sword is still as sharp as before. However, I only used 70% of my strength. You will not have it as easy for you in the next Tianmu ranking. The gray-robed cultivator sheathed his sword first, appearing very confident. The swordsman called Lu Chunsheng smiled faintly and said, "Zhou Tiancheng, don't think that you are the only one who did not use your full strength. I only used 50% as well." Just at this moment, Ding Fengqiu led Jin Wuji in from outside the courtyard. The moment Xiaochen entered the courtyard, the two people in the arena immediately looked over and focused their gazes on Ding Fengqiu. Sensing the other party's sword intent, a cautious look appeared in his eyes. In the depths of his eyes, there was a blazing fighting spirit. The sword intent from Xiaochen's body pressed over without fear. Unexpectedly, the two of them worked together to put pressure on Ding Fengqiu. Ding Fengqiu raised his eyelids slightly, and the surging sword intent in his body soared into the sky. There seemed to be the faint hum of a sword in the air. Even when fighting 1 against 2, Ding Fengqiu was not at a disadvantage. He slowly walked forward and his sword intent surged, suppressing Lu Chunsheng and Zhou Tiancheng. Ha ha ha. Unexpectedly, we cannot suppress Ding Fengqiu even after working together. Ding Fengqiu, it looks like you gained a lot in the deep-sea battlefield. A hearty laugh came from outside the courtyard. A young man with an elegant figure and a playful smile on his face slowly stepped into the courtyard. When Jin Wuji saw this person, his expression changed slightly. This was the beast-taming abode's Pei Xiaoxian, one of the top 100 rankers of the previous Heaven Martial rankings. Jin Wuji was eliminated by this person. He could not even block 3 moves and had to leave in a sorry state. Jin Wuji felt a deep fear for this person. Pei Xiaoxian also saw Jin Wuji. He mocked, "Why did you bring trash to such a big event? Ding Fengqiu, are you not afraid of embarrassing your heavenly sword gate?" When Jin Wuji heard this, he became enraged. If he did not fear the other party's strength, he would have flared up on the spot. Ding Fengqiu withdrew his sword intent and looked at Pei Xiaoxian. He smiled faintly and said, "Even your first senior brother does not dare to speak to me like this. Pei Xiaoxian, have you forgotten about that sword strike from back then?" Pei Xiaoxuan's face sank. When he thought of the sword strike on his chest, he did not say anything more. He said coldly, "Don't worry. No matter how strong you become, I will definitely take revenge for that sword strike from back then." The two people in the arena walked down somewhat dispiritedly. The two of them had lost to Ding Fengqiu in the previous Heaven Martial rankings. After 2 years of hard work, the gap between them and Ding Fengqiu had grown even wider. "We have to fight for a spot in the ancient desolate tower this time. Otherwise, if he gets in first, we will not have a chance to surpass him." The two of them thought to themselves. Only by entering the ancient desolate tower could they ensure that their strength could soar quickly or have a fortuitous encounter. Only then could they surpass Ding Fengqiu. As time slowly went by, the number of people in the courtyard increased. Many people gathered at the tables and chairs in the courtyard. The 100-odd people in the courtyard all found people they were familiar with. They gathered together and chatted in whispers. After a while, 4 old men walked into the courtyard. The leader of the group swept his gaze across the people in the courtyard. All the conversations stopped. He emitted a formless aura from his body. Unexpectedly, this old man was a bona fide martial monarch. The 3 people beside him were not simple either. They were all half-step martial monarchs, they were all experts. "Oldly, it seems like not everyone is here yet. The myriad fiend palaces Jiang Zimo and Mu Xinya are not here yet," one of the people at the side said respectfully to the leader of the group after he looked around. Old Li went to a table in the middle of the courtyard and sat down. He said indifferently, "Then let's wait for a while. If Jiang Zimo does not come, the higher-ups will definitely gossip." The geniuses in the courtyard started to get excited. These 4 people were the upper echelons of the Heavenly Extermination Union. They were also the people in charge of the trial of the ancient desolate tower. How the spots for this batch would be decided was still a mystery. Everyone was filled with anticipation. Outside the Clear Spring Inn, Jiang Zimo and Mu Xinya occasionally looked around as if they were looking for someone. Mu Xinya withdrew her gaze and said with some disappointment, "Zimo, it looks like the person you mentioned will not be coming." Jiang Zimo smiled helplessly and said, "Never mind, this is the first time we meet. He probably thinks that I am up to no good. Let's go. It is not good to make the others wait for too long." On an extremely desolate peak of the Heavenly Spring mountain range, Xiao Chen was covered in wounds. He hung miserably from a tree. He held an illusionary yin grass in his hand as he panted. The inferior grade inner vest on his chest was already in tatters, it had lost all its spiritual energy. There was a horrifying wound on his chest. The wound was so deep that his bones could be seen. Just taking a breath would cause intense pain. It could be imagined that if it wasn't for the defense of this inner armor, this wound would have directly split him in half. Xiao Chen placed the illusionary yin grass in his universe ring and said with a fatigued expression, "That dazzling Shadow Panther King should not be chasing us anymore, right?" One day ago, Xiao Chen had just finished dealing with 2 superior-grade martial kings and was preparing to sweep away all the illusionary yin grass in the valley. Who knew, after Xiao Chen picked 10 illusionary yin grass and relaxed, he would be ambushed. That was a dazzling Shadow Panther King. It had lived for a long time and eaten many illusionary yin grass. Unexpectedly, Xiao Chen could not detect it with his spiritual sense. When Xiao Chen was preparing to pick the illusionary yin grass earlier, the killing qi he felt did not belong to Qin Pengyu or Xiao Chen. Instead, it belonged to this dazzling Shadow Panther King. Actually, Xiao Chen should have guessed it long ago. Given Qin Pengyu's cultivation, how could his killing qi be so dense from a distance of a kilometer? Xiao Chen could only blame himself for placing too much trust in his spiritual sense. In the end, a dazzling Shadow Panther King suddenly appeared. Xiao Chen could not detect it with his spiritual sense. Hence, tragedy struck. The dazzling Shadow Panther King's first attack tore through Xiao Chen's inner vest and left a huge wound on his chest. Xiao Chen's combat prowess plummeted. Furthermore, he could not detect the dazzling Shadow Panther King's position or figure. Caught off guard, Xiao Chen sustained injuries. If not for his body being tempered by a heaven-ranked cultivation technique, the dazzling Shadow Panther King would have torn him to shreds long ago. Xiao Chen used his cloning technique and all his trump cards. After fleeing for a day, he finally managed to escape from danger. Xiao Chen casually tossed away the inner vest on his chest and bandaged his wounds. Then, he placed a medicinal pill in his mouth and started to treat his injuries. After this lesson, Xiao Chen did not dare to be careless in the future. Even if his spiritual sense confirmed that he was in a safe place, he could not let down his guard. This world was very big. It was hard to say if there were any cultivators with tools that could evade spiritual sense. If Xiao Chen was forced into a corner by a cultivator, he would not be able to escape easily. After half an hour, Xiao Chen's injuries were mostly healed. Then, he called out his silver warship and flew quickly towards Heavenly Spring City. When Xiao Chen saw the blazing sun above him, he felt somewhat anxious. Today was the 17th, and it was already noon. Xiao Chen did not know if he could make it to the Clear Spring Inn. If he missed this opportunity, he would suffer a great loss. This was a fortuitous encounter that most geniuses could participate in. If Xiao Chen missed it, he would fall behind by a long distance. There was already a gap in cultivation in the first place. It would be even more difficult to catch up. Furthermore, according to the cultivator in green, the ancient desolate tower was a place that even the geniuses of the Thunder King's generation had to go to. Xiao Chen did not want to miss it. Xiaochen traveled at full speed for an hour before he finally arrived at Heavenly Spring City. Then, he rushed to the Clear Spring Inn, looking travel-worn. The inn looked the same as before, business was booming. The sounds of people eating, drinking, and chatting filled the place. It did not look like anything major had happened. Xiaochen felt suspicious. He stopped a waiter and casually tossed a medial-grade spirit stone to him. He asked, "Is there a girl called Xia Xian or a man called Jiang Zimo in the inn?" The waiter caught the medial-grade spirit stone and said with a smile, "You must be here to ask about the ancient desolate tower's candidates. However, you are too late. The Heavenly Extermination Union has already brought these people to Longyang Island." Xiaochen felt somewhat disappointed. He immediately asked, "In that case, are Xia Xian and Jiang Zimo still around?" "Naturally, they left together." The waiter continued, "However, the Jiang Zimo you mentioned stood outside for a long time in the morning. He forced the Heavenly Extermination Union to delay their selection by 2 hours. Because of this, he offended several young outstanding talents." Xiaochen walked out of the Clear Spring Inn and looked at the sky above him. He appeared somewhat disappointed. Chapter 430. Jiang Zimo had already done all he could. Unfortunately, he was still lacking in luck. He was fated to not be able to enter the ancient desolate tower. Xiaochen smiled helplessly and said, "It looks like the ancient desolate tower does not welcome me. It was just an ancient desolate pass." Unexpectedly, a dazzling shadow panther king appeared. Xiaochen calmed himself and headed for the Heavenly Extermination Union branch. Since he no longer had a chance, he should not continue to be dejected. Not being able to enter the ancient desolate tower did not mean that he could not reach the peak of cultivation. No matter what, he could not let his mental state fall. The number of people in the Heavenly Extermination Union branch was much smaller than when Xiaochen arrived yesterday. This was somewhat surprising. When the old man behind the counter on the second floor saw Xiaochen arrive, his face was filled with surprise. He received the illusionary ingress from Xiaochen and smiled, "Brat, you managed to escape from a dazzling shadow panther king. Your strength is truly extraordinary." Xiaochen's expression changed. He said angrily, "You knew long ago that there was a dazzling shadow panther king. Why did you not warn me? Do you know that you nearly caused my death?" The old man shrugged and smiled innocently, "Young man, don't be so angry. Did you ask for my permission?" Xiaochen felt very depressed. This was a matter of life and death. Even if he did not ask, he should have warned him. The old man was clearly acting shamelessly. Since he could not do anything to him, Xiaochen could not be bothered with him anymore. He said, "Stop speaking nonsense. Give me the ancient desolate pass." The black-robed old man laughed loudly. He took out a white medallion and handed it to Xiaochen. He said, "This is the medallion I just made. It is all rank 1. However, although there is no reward for your mission, it is already recorded." Xiaochen received the medallion and looked at it. The words, "Heavenly Extermination Union," were written on the front of the white medallion. Xiaochen's name was carved on the back. After the black-robed old man handed the ancient desolate pass to Xiaochen, he took out an engraved card and said, "This engraved card is an extra reward for you." After all, this illusionary ingress mission was quite a headache. You helped me solve a big problem. What is it? Xiaochen looked at the old man and asked suspiciously. The old man held the engraved card and gently knocked on the table. He smiled and said, "What is it?" "It is what you want now." Xiaochen couldn't help but laugh. He looked at the old man with interest and smiled, "Interesting, do you know what I want now?" The old man said casually, "The ancient desolate tower." Xiaochen's expression could not help but change. He did not think too much about how the old man knew. He pointed at the engraved card and said, "This thing can allow me to enter the ancient desolate tower?" The old man shook his head and said, "No, they only gave you a chance to compete fairly with others. Do you know why you did not receive an invitation from the Heavenly Extermination Union? It is because your cultivation is too low. White-robed bladesman Xiao Chen, you are quite famous in the great Qin nation. The upper echelon of the Heavenly Extermination Union noticed you long ago. However, at that time, your cultivation was too low. Even now, you are only an inferior grade martial king. The minimum requirement for an invitation is to be a medial grade martial king. As for whether to give you an invitation or not, the Heavenly Extermination Union split into two factions. They debated for a long time. You are very lucky. I happen to be on the faction that supports you. Xiao Chen had not expected such a small invitation to have so many tricks up his sleeves. So, you did not tell me about the mission for the illusionary ingress. Is this a test for me? The old man nodded and said, that's right. In fact, to obtain this ancient desolate pass, you just have to complete an ordinary mission. No matter what you choose in the end, I will give you the mission for the illusionary ingress. You did not disappoint me. You were able to escape from the hands of the dazzling Shadow Panther King. You are definitely strong enough. Right now, Xiao Chen felt like he had gained something and then lost it. He originally thought that the ancient desolate tower was far away from him. Unexpectedly, he found an opportunity that was even more reliable than Jiang Zimos. Xiao Chen stretched his hand out to take the engraved card. However, the old man did not rush to hand it over. He smiled and said, don't blame me for not warning you this time. By taking this engraved card, you will only gain an opportunity. It does not guarantee you entry into the ancient desolate tower. The test you will meet might really take your life. Xiao Chen did not hesitate to take the engraved card. He said resolutely, don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Tell me the details. The black-robed old man muttered to himself for a while before telling Xiao Chen the rules of this selection in full detail. There were simply too many geniuses from the four nations and the ancient desolate land. Even though the minimum requirement was to be a medial grade martial king under the age of 24, there were still more than 1,000 people. This was more than twice as many as the previous selections. Hence, the selection changed from 1 round to 2. The peak geniuses from the four nations were split into 4 groups and brought to the 4 main islands of the Heavenly Extermination Lake. The first test was to obtain 60 victories in the A-rank matches of the main island's wrestling city. Everyone would have a chance to win 100 matches. The old man said indifferently, the rank A wrestling rings are second only to the rank S wrestling rings. Aside from half-step martial monarchs and above, cultivators and demonic beasts of any cultivation realm will appear. Furthermore, these 60 victories have to be completed within 6 days. Completing it within 3 days meant that one would have to fight at least 10 matches a day. Furthermore, the cultivation of the opponents in these 10 matches would not be much weaker than one's. Xiao Chen thought to himself, if this is the case, I will have to eliminate half of the people in the first round of the test. The old man continued. After passing the first test, the remaining cultivators will gather in Desolate City. After that, they will compete in the arena for points. The 20 strongest participants will obtain the qualifications to enter the ancient Desolate Tower. Among the 1,000 geniuses of the various nations, only 20 would be selected. The odds were small. It was easy to imagine how intense the competition would be. Xiao Chen felt suspicious as he asked, why not invite the geniuses of the great Jin nation to the ancient Desolate Tower? This time, the people who came were all cultivators of the four nations and the local clans of the Heavenly Extermination Lake. None of them were geniuses of the great Jin nation. Xiao Chen had his suspicions for a long time. The old man smiled and explained for a long time. Only then did Xiao Chen slowly understand. Aside from the great Jin nation, the other four nations had very few spirit veins. The density of their spiritual energy was worlds apart from that of the great Jin nation. Hence, in every 5-nation youth competition, most of the top 100 of the Tianwu ranking were from the great Jin nation. The higher they went, the fewer people there were from the other 4 nations. Needless to say, the top 10 contestants were all taken up by the warriors of the Jin nation almost every time. No matter how talented the cultivators of the other 4 nations were, very few could break this rule. At best, they could only make it to the top 20. The Myriad Fiend Palace controls half of the authority behind the Heavenly Extermination Union, and the other half is split between the four nations. The Great Gene Nation has nothing to do with it. Do you think that the other four nations would allow him to enter the ancient desolate tower after being suppressed so miserably by the Great Gene Nation? Xiao Chen said with some disbelief, "Are the geniuses of the Great Gene Nation really that strong?" The old man had a grave expression as he said, "They are stronger than you imagine. With your current strength, it would be difficult for you to rank within the top 500 of the Great Gene Nation's younger generation." Xiao Chen did not refute this. He acknowledged this point as well. However, he did not feel too dispirited. All along, Xiao Chen had never thought that he was weaker than anyone else, even the geniuses of the Great Gene Nation. All he lacked was time. As long as he had enough time, he would trample on all these people and rise up in this budding era of geniuses. I have spoken enough nonsense. I will not speak any further. When you go to Wrestling City, hand this engraved card to the leader of the Heavenly Extermination Union. He will make the necessary arrangements for you. The old man waved his hand and dismissed Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen did not linger. He took his leave and quickly flew towards Longyang Island. Longyang Island was the core of the southern group of islands. Its position was equivalent to the capital of the Great Qin Nation. It was more than 2,500 kilometers away from Heavenly Spring Island. After checking the map carefully, Xiao Chen muttered, "Jiang Zimo and the others should have been gone for more than 6 hours. There are many of them, so they will not be very fast. I might be able to catch up to them." After leaving the city, Xiao Chen soared into the air and tore off the blue strip of cloth on his forehead. Xiao! With a thought, a scarlet light lit up. The Scarlet Massacre Throne appeared from nowhere. A thick scarlet cloud churned under the throne. The Massacre Throne only needed to exhaust the state of Massacre in order to fly at an extremely fast speed. If one did not worry about the exhaustion, the Massacre Throne could reach Mach 4. In the future, when the cultivation of the state of Massacre increased, the speed would increase even more. However, the state of Massacre was normally used for combat. If it was used for flying, it would be inferior in combat. Hence, under normal circumstances, Xiao Chen would not use the Scarlet Throne to fly. At this moment, the situation was urgent. Xiao Chen could not care so much. He sat on the throne and rode the scarlet cloud in the sky. A strong wind blew from the front. Xiao Chen leaned on the armrest and propped up his chin, appearing relaxed. After all, he did not need to exhaust his essence. He only needed to exhaust the scarlet pool in the throne. Furthermore, this was obtained after killing people. It had nothing to do with Xiao Chen's body. In order to avoid meeting other cultivators and attracting unnecessary trouble, Xiao Chen flew up to 10,000 meters. As Xiao Chen flew at full speed, the scarlet pool in the throne shrank at a visible rate. After flying for a long time, only a small portion of the scarlet pool remained. Then, Xiao Chen recalled the scarlet throne into his sea of consciousness. It was not easy to replenish the scarlet pool. After exhausting it, it would be even more difficult to replenish it. Xiao Chen was already close to Longyang Island. If he still could not catch up to Jiang Zimo's group, there was no need to force himself. It was better to keep some state of Massacre as a backup. Xiao Chen slowly descended. The silhouette of a huge island appeared before Xiao Chen. This was the main island of the south, Longyang Island. The number of cultivators in the sky gradually increased. Most of them were in groups of 2 or 3, flying quickly towards the island. Xiao Chen looked up and discovered that all the cultivators who came to Longyang Island were flying in the same direction. This was the famous wrestling city of Longyang Island. It was a city made up of wrestling arenas of various sizes. The entire city was filled with blood and violence. Chapter 431. There were 4 other wrestling cities like this in the entire ancient desolate land. They were located on the other 3 main islands. Strange, there are more than 10 cities on Longyang Island. Why are all these people heading in the direction of wrestling cities? Xiao Chen felt confused as he looked at the departing figures. I really can't figure it out. Wrestling City has not held a large-scale Rank A wrestling ring in the past 10 years. Who knows what is going on this time? They actually held dozens of matches. Hee hee. Who cares? The Rank A wrestling rings are a great opportunity to earn money. If you win 10 matches in a row, you will be able to obtain 5,000 medial grade spirit stones. If you win 20 matches in a row, you will even get an inferior grade secret treasure. I heard that the rewards this time will be increased. I wonder if that is true. If it is, then they will be spending a lot of money. A group of cultivators who passed by Xiao Chen spoke excitedly about why they were going to Wrestling City. When Xiao Chen heard this, his expression sank. He looked at the sky and saw the cultivators rushing towards Wrestling City. He muttered, "The news has spread so far. It looks like I will meet many famous cultivators of the ancient desolate land in the first round." The full moon hung high in the sky, and the sky was dotted with stars. Under the bright moonlight, most of the stars were covered up. In a residence within Wrestling City, the 4 people in charge of the Heavenly Extermination Union led more than 200 geniuses from various places to a banquet. From tomorrow onwards, the cultivators below would start a cruel competition. They would be fighting high-intensity battles for 6 consecutive days. Hence, the people in charge of the Heavenly Extermination Union decided to hold a banquet to let everyone relax. At the same time, they would take the opportunity to answer some questions. Old Li sat in the middle of the hall. Beside him were his 3 assistants. A long wooden table was placed in front of the 4 of them. There were also long wooden tables placed against the walls on both sides. Wine and snacks were placed on the tables. There were 3 or 4 cultivators behind each table. The cultivators chatted happily with each other, and the atmosphere was very lively. Seniorly, I heard that in the next 5-nation youth competition, the top contestants of the Tianwu ranking will be able to go to the upper realm. On the right side, a young cultivator put down the wine cup in his hand and respectfully asked Old Li, who was on the stage. As soon as these words were spoken, the hall instantly quietened down, and everyone's gazes converged onto Senior Li. The so-called upper realm was a mysterious place to everyone. Rumor had it that the land of the 3 holy masters was in such a world. No one knew what kind of world it was. In the Sky Martial continent, it was said that only those with the strength of Emperor Wu could break through the void and go to the upper realm to have a look. Before reaching Emperor Wu's level, if one wanted to go up and take a look, they would have to participate in the 5-nation youth competition. Of course, not every 5-nation youth competition had such an opportunity. Only when the geniuses of the various nations reached their peak would they attract the attention of the upper realm. Then, they would be given such an opportunity. However, in the past few thousand years, there had been no news of anyone obtaining the qualifications to enter the upper realm from the 5-nation youth competition. The earliest 5-nation youth competition was 4,000 years ago. It was said that the young geniuses of the Thunder King's generation obtained such an opportunity in the 5-nation youth competition. 4,000 years was too long. The matter of that time had already become a legend. Now, the young cultivators could only make some guesses, they did not dare to confirm whether it was true or not. However, this 5-nation youth competition had already revealed some suspicions. Not only would the various nations and powers of the Tianwu continent send people to participate, but even the distant shallow seas of the Boundless Sea had already become a legend. Even the 4 shallow seas in the distant Boundless Ocean were planning to send people to participate. If it wasn't for the fact that they had obtained the opportunity to go to the previous World Championships, they definitely wouldn't have caused such a huge commotion. When Old Li heard this, he smiled gently and said, "What I know, the supreme elders of the older generation of the sects behind you know as well. Since they did not tell you, naturally, I will not tell you either." "Why?" everyone asked, feeling confused. Old Li shook his head and said, "It is not the time yet. Now is the budding age of geniuses. Your generation has not matured yet. Telling you will only bring you harm. I can only say that if you all do your best, those with great luck will be pleasantly surprised. Jin Wuji and Ding Fengqiu sat at a table to the right, at the back. Jin Wuji felt suspicious as he said, "This is strange. Why does your tone sound exactly the same as Master's? First senior brother, Master dotes on you the most. Do you have any inside information?" Ding Fengqiu took a sip of wine. A deep look flashed in his eyes, making him look very mysterious. Ding Fengqiu put down his wine cup and shook his head. He smiled and said, "I'm not sure. Don't overthink this. If you are not strong enough, you might not end up well there." The banquet continued. During this time, someone asked about the rules of the rank A wrestling ring. Old Li answered all of them, not hiding anything at all. "Once you go to the wrestling ring, this old man will not be in charge there. Let me make things clear first. If there is any danger, just retreat. Don't try to be brave. As for the rules, they are the rules of the wrestling ring. You do not have any special privileges. Just think of a way to obtain 60 victories." Dong! 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 Just at this moment, urgent footsteps could be heard. An attendant outside the hall held an engraved card in his hand. He quickly walked over to Old Li and whispered something into his ear. Old Li's expression changed slightly. He instructed, "Go down first and bring him up. I'll take a look at him personally." A few of Old Li's assistants looked at the engraved card and said in astonishment, "Elder Huang's engraved card. Who is he protecting?" Old Li casually put away the engraved card. His expression was somewhat sullen. He said indifferently, "It's that brat who objected so strongly back then. I want to know why this old Huang wants to protect him so many times." When the outstanding talents in the hall saw Old Li's expression suddenly turn sullen, they could not figure out what was going on. They felt that something was going to happen. The atmosphere suddenly became a little strange, and the hall became extremely quiet. Everyone looked at the door outside the hall, wanting to see who had offended Old Man Li. Mu Xinya whispered to Jiang Zimo, who was beside her, "Could it be that the person you spoke of is here again?" Jiang Zimo said softly, "It is hard to say. However, if it is really him, I will not be of much help. This elderly is not from our Myriad Fiend Palace's faction." Ta! Ta! Soft footsteps came from outside the door. Xiao Chen, dressed in blue robes and holding the lunar shadow saber in his hand, entered the hall with a calm expression. Xiao Chen looked around from the corner of his eyes and scanned the faces of everyone in the hall. He saw a few familiar faces. There was Xia Xian, whom he had fought with before. There was Jiang Zimo, whom he had met before. The silver-haired girl beside Jiang Zimo seemed familiar, but Xiao Chen could not recall where he had seen her before. There were also his two old friends, Jin Wuji and Ding Fengqiu. Unexpectedly, they were here as well. When Xiao Chen felt Jin Wuji's hostile gaze, he ignored it. The atmosphere in the hall did not seem right. Xiao Chen did not think too much about it. He raised his head and performed a cupped fist salute to Old Li. Junior Xiao Chen greets Senior. However, Old Li ignored Xiao Chen's words. He smiled indifferently and said, "I personally believe that cultivation realm is the foundation of a cultivator. Back then, I was the one who suggested the threshold for medial grade martial king. I really want to know why an inferior grade martial king like you is here. Are you seeking death?" Xiao Chen's face sank. He remembered the words of the Heavenly Extermination Union's old man. It looked like he was unlucky. The old man in front of him was the one who opposed him back then. "Go back to where you came from. Enter the wrestling ring and renew the life and death contract. Come back again when you are a medial grade martial king. It would be a pity if you fall here at such a young age. Don't think that after being famous in the great Qin nation for a while, you have great talent and can ignore the rules. The great Qin nation is always the weakest of the 5 great nations." When the people below heard Old Li's words, their expressions became playful. It turned out that this person had used his connections to enter and compete with them for a spot. Unfortunately, his backer was not that strong. This Old Li did not buy it and ended up being humiliated instead. A quick-witted young cultivator could tell that Old Li did not like Xiao Chen. He immediately followed along and mocked, "An inferior-grade martial king wants to compete with us for a spot in the ancient desolate tower? You overestimate yourself." The others immediately agreed, "Indeed, go back. If you die in the wrestling ring, you will have nothing left. This is not the great Qin nation. You are a peak genius there. Here, you are nothing." Xiao Chen's expression remained calm. He did not care about the words around him. He only committed them to memory. He looked straight at Old Li and said, "Cultivation is indeed the foundation of a cultivator. However, combat techniques, martial techniques, and cultivation techniques are equally important. They might even be more important than cultivation." Old Li snorted coldly and said, "Do you think you are qualified to speak to me? I do not need you to teach me what is the most important. Scram immediately." Jiang Zimo could not stand it any longer. He said, "Senior Li, as far as I know, Elder Huang took out his engraved card. He has the authority to recommend someone." Old Li seemed to be afraid of Jiang Zimo's identity. He did not refute him. What Jiang Zimo said was the truth. However, back then, he was the one who proposed the requirement to become a medial-grade martial king. He was also the one who vetoed sending an invitation to Xiao Chen. Now that he had to agree to Xiao Chen's request, he felt uncomfortable in his heart. If he could persuade Xiao Chen to withdraw, he could say that Xiao Chen withdrew of his own accord. Elder Huang would not be able to do anything to him. However, looking at the current situation, Xiao Chen was very patient. Furthermore, Jiang Zimo had spoken up for him. It would not be good to chase him away. When Old Li's gaze fell on Xiao Chen, he thought of a countermeasure. He smiled gently and said, "Very well, I will give you a chance. Since you say that combat techniques and cultivation techniques are more important than cultivation, then choose a person in this hall. Then choose someone from this hall. If you can defeat him within 10 moves, I'll give you this opportunity. Let everyone see just how brilliant your combat skills are." The hall was very quiet. Everyone looked at Xiao Chen with eyes filled with schadenfreude. Clearly, this person had offended Old Li. It was impossible for Xiao Chen to defeat them within 10 moves. The weakest cultivator here was a peak medial-grade martial king. Chapter 432. They were all top-notch geniuses in their respective sections. They did not lack high-ranked cultivation techniques or martial techniques. As for the so-called combat techniques, they did not think that they were inferior to Xiao Chen. Jin Wuji laughed in a carefree manner, to think that this brat would have such a day. After being humiliated by the Heavenly Extermination Union's elders, the anger in his heart has lessened somewhat. A girl beside Xia Xian also smiled and said in a soft voice, "Senior sister, who is this person? He is just an inferior-grade martial king. Why is he here?" However, Xia Xian's expression did not change much. She said, "Xiao Rou, don't think that way. He is not an ordinary inferior-grade martial king." A trace of killing intent flashed in Xiao Chen's calm eyes. He looked at Old Li and said, "May I know senior's name?" Old Li said indifferently, "This old man is Li Xiuzhu. If you are afraid, you can leave. If you stay, you have to agree to my request." Li Xiuzhu, Li Xiuzhu. He firmly remembered this name in his heart. Xiao Chen swore that he would return today's humiliation 100-fold in the future. Without changing his expression, Xiao Chen said indifferently, "As you wish. I hope you will not regret your decision today." Li Xiuzhu smiled coldly and said, "I will regret it. This old man has seen many geniuses, and I've seen even more people like you who don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Even if I give you 10 years, you won't be a threat to me." Bang! Li Xiuzhu slammed the table heavily and snorted coldly, "I will let whoever defeats him pass the first round." As soon as these words were spoken, the crowd instantly burst into an uproar. All of them rushed towards Xiao Chen at the same time. If he directly passed the first round, not only would it be a pity that he could save a lot of energy, but he could also observe the various trump cards of others and not reveal his own trump card. There were many benefits, and they would be able to gain a great advantage in the second round of the arena battles. There was no one who wouldn't want this opportunity. Xiao. However, a figure rushed ahead of everyone else. It was the Heavenly Sword Sect's Jin Wuji. His gaze was fixed on Xiao Chen. The moment Li Xiuzhu spoke, Jin Wuji's figure appeared before Xiao Chen with a "so" sound. Ding Fengqiu's hand hovered in the air. He had just been about to stop Jin Wuji when he withdrew his hand. In such a short period of time, he had actually burst forth with such great speed, not giving him a chance to react at all. I can't even stop him. How foolish. Fine, if you want to send yourself over as a stepping stone, it's up to you. Ding Fengqiu shook his head as he drained the wine in his cup in one gulp. However, this was a good opportunity for him to see what cultivation realm Xiao Chen had reached. Jin Wuji's killing chi spread out uncontrollably. He smiled somewhat savagely and said, "Xiao Chen, you did not expect such a day to come, did you? Back then, you sneak attacked me and trampled on me. You definitely did not expect that one day, I would personally bury your hopes." Huh. Jin Wuji laughed heartily. Back then, on the island, he had been stepped on by Xiao Chen. He had not even been able to retaliate. That was simply a nightmare. After that, when he cultivated several times, Xiao Chen's appearance would appear in his mind, causing him to break down. Jin Wuji knew that this was a heart demon. Xiao Chen had already become his heart demon. If he did not deal with him personally, the heart demon would exist forever. His inner demons would always exist, and his strength would always be stagnant, and there would even be the danger of regressing. Now, as long as he could endure 10 moves, he would be able to destroy Xiao Chen's hopes of entering the ancient desolate tower. This was undoubtedly a good opportunity to deal with his heart demon. How could he not be in a good mood? Jin Wuji withdrew his smile and said with a sullen expression, "White-robed bladesman, today, I will let you know that if you had not sneak attacked me, you would not have stood a chance against me." Xiao Chen flipped his palm and the lunar shadow saber appeared in his right hand. He said indifferently, "What a joke. Do you really think it was only because of a sneak attack?" When Mu Xinya saw Xiao Chen take out the lunar shadow saber from the universe ring, her expression fluctuated. She muttered, "It really is him." Song Kei's palm strike did not kill him. From the moment Xiao Chen stepped into the hall, Mu Xinya's gaze never left Xiao Chen. This was because Xiao Chen's temperament was too similar to that of the person in her memories. Calm, decisive, and unhurried. No matter what happened, his expression would not change. No matter who he met, he would not be servile or overbearing. At this moment, when Xiao Chen took out the lunar shadow saber, the saber from Mu Xinya's memories, she could finally confirm Xiao Chen's identity. "Senior sister, do you think this Xiao Chen can win?" Xia Xian's junior sister, who was beside her, asked. Xia Xian replied uncertainly, "It is hard to say. His overall strength is definitely stronger than Jin Wuji's. However, it would be too difficult to defeat him within 10 moves. Even I am not confident." Most of the cultivators present felt the same way. This Jin Wuji is lucky. He does not need to go through the first round. Li Xiuzhu sat calmly in his seat. He had a faint smile on his face. He did not have any expectations for Xiao Chen. Such an ignorant cultivator would not be able to achieve much in the future. Chi! Suddenly, a resonant sword hum resounded in the hall. Jin Wuji finally could not endure it any longer and made the first move. The tip of the sword pointed at Xiao Chen. The long sword trembled continuously, and the air rippled like water. A sharp metal concept was emitted from the sword's edge. Before the sword moved, the wind from the sword had already arrived. An unparalleled sharp sword intent shot towards Xiao Chen. It tore through the air and entered Xiao Chen's forehead, trying to break his heart and disrupt his mental state. The state of metal had only one attribute, sharpness. It was incredibly sharp. Based on Jin Wuji's aura, it was clear that he had cultivated the state of metal to great perfection. There is no more chance. Jin Wuji's state of metal has already reached great perfection. Although it has not reached peak consummation, it is impossible to defeat him within 10 moves, Xia Xian sighed. The others in the hall all shook their heads. This battle was unfair from the start. Now, Xiao Chen had no chance at all. Li Xiuzhu's frown relaxed, and he relaxed completely. He muttered to himself, the result is already decided. When Xiao Chen felt that sharp sword intent, he had an idea. He circulated the qi that he had not used before. Ever since Xiao Chen condensed his martial spirit, he had experienced failures, setbacks, tribulations, perplexities, and worries. This was the qi that only a bladesman possessed. Dang! A melodious clang resounded in the air. It was like divine weapons clashing in the air, giving off a heavy vibrating sound that spread into the surroundings. Jin Wuji's sword intent was immediately blocked. The state of metal in the sword intent also vanished like smoke in thin air. Saber intent. When they heard the heavy vibrating sound and felt the qi from Xiao Chen's body, some of the people in the hall felt suspicious. Sabers were formed from swords. Saber intent was also derived from sword intent. However, it was even harder to comprehend than sword intent. If the chances of comprehending sword intent were 1 in 100,000, then the chances of comprehending saber intent were 1 in a million. Furthermore, in the past few thousand years, no one had heard of anyone comprehending saber intent before the age of 30. The 10 great bladesmen of the ancient desolate land had all comprehended saber intent at the age of 40. Only the generation of the Thunder King had such a talented bladesman. If one wanted to trace this back, it would be the Tianwu dynasty, or even earlier, the ancient era. Ding Fengqiu's expression relaxed slightly. He said, fortunately, it is not saber intent. It is just a strand of qi. However, just a strand of qi can resist Jin Wuji's sword intent. How powerful would saber intent be? The others in the hall also heaved a sigh of relief. If it was really saber intent, it would be a huge blow. Jin Wuji is not weak. If I want to defeat him under normal circumstances, I would have to fight him for more than 100 moves. If I want to defeat Jin Wuji within 10 moves, I have to catch him off guard. Then, I have to charge forward like a ferocious tiger and crush him in one go, not giving him time to react. Coincidentally, I have a set of saber techniques that can be used in one go, the rushing thunder chop. Although it is of a lower rank, Xiao Chen's essence and state can make up for it. It is sufficient to deal with Jin Wuji. After scattering Jin Wuji's sword intent, Xiao Chen took advantage of the moment his opponent was stunned to raise his right foot by half a meter. Then, he stomped down ferociously. Bang! This stomp merged vital qi and essence. Xiao Chen did not hold back at all. It contained 350 tons of force, and a crack immediately appeared in the ground. Boom! 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 The entire hall shook. All the wine on the wooden table shattered with a ka-ca-ca sound. The crack quickly extended towards Jin Wuji. Hu Qi! Hu Qi! A sharp energy that was half a meter tall soared up from the crack. As the crack extended, it charged straight at Jin Wuji. It was like a sharp knife trying to split Jin Wuji in half. The stunned expression on Jin Wuji's face turned into one of extreme shock. He had not expected Xiao Chen to suddenly make such a move. This was what it meant by catching the enemy off guard and attacking them when they were unprepared. Jin Wuji's body shook along with the ground. When he saw the energy rushing at him, he quickly dodged to the side. The energy passed by Jin Wuji and continued towards Li Xiuzhu, who was behind him. Li Xiuzhu remained expressionless as he stomped on the ground. The sharp energy instantly shattered into nothing. At the same time, the crack in the ground stopped. When it reached Li Xiuzhu's table, it was difficult to move an inch further. Xiao! Jin Wuji had just stabilized his footing when he saw Xiao Chen's right hand grasping his saber hilt. Xiao Chen's eyes were as sharp as an eagle's as he rushed at him. Dong! 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 Xiao Chen's footsteps sounded like thunder. He moved as fast as lightning, creating a strong wind. Jin Wuji could not keep his eyes open. Jin Wuji had a bad feeling in his heart. He pushed off the ground and retreated. Can I retreat? It is already too late. Xiao Chen snorted coldly in his heart. His right hand, which was on the saber hilt, swung out. Drawing the saber. It was like a bolt of lightning had shot out from the scabbard. The purple light was so dazzling that it hurt everyone's eyes. In the time it took for a spark to fly, Jin Wuji quickly spun his sword and held it horizontally in front of his chest, blocking this sword strike. Dang! The saber and sword clashed, giving off intense sparks and a chi-chi sound. As he ran, Xiao Chen's aura was raised to its peak. On the other hand, Jin Wuji, who had lost the initiative and wanted to retreat, lost most of his aura. Jin Wuji's arm felt numb, and his sword trembled. He nearly lost his grip on it. Arc-light chop. Xiao Chen activated the blood flame shoes, and his speed increased explosively. In an instant, he arrived at Jin Wuji's side. The lunar shadow saber sent out a strange arc-light. The arc-light flickered with electricity. Chapter 433. Retreat. The arcs of light sealed off all points of attack. There was no weakness at all, there was no way for Jin Wuji to counterattack. Jin Wuji retreated again. No, I cannot retreat anymore. If I do, my momentum will plummet, Jin Wuji thought anxiously. I have to attack and regain control of the rhythm. Jin Wuji's sword trembled as he started to gather his killing move. Just as he was about to attack, he saw Xiao Chen charging at him with his saber. If Jin Wuji did not retreat, his chest would be pierced by Xiao Chen in the next moment, and he would die without a complete corpse. Retreat! How hateful! Jin Wuji felt extremely depressed. He scattered his killing move and retreated once more. Xiao Chen's figure paused in the air. As he looked at the retreating Jin Wuji, it was like he had frozen. Rushing thunder chop. In the next moment, there was an explosion behind Xiao Chen. It shook off all the dust on the roof, and his aura instantly soared again. Carrying the boundless might of thunder, Xiao Chen chopped down with his saber. It was like rolling thunder. Jin Wuji was horrified. This saber descended like lightning, not giving him a chance to dodge at all. Its aura locked onto him, as if it knew where he would land. Sword light flashed, and Jin Wuji expended his essence without any regard for his life. He quickly created layers of solid sword screens, trying to block this saber strike. However, his momentum was already exhausted. No matter how strong the sword screens were, they were useless against Xiao Chen's saber strike, which had reached its peak. Bang! 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 The layers of sword screens were easily broken. The surging energy shot out in all directions. The many cultivators quickly made their moves to block. Pu Ci. The saber energy entered Jin Wuji's body, and he vomited a mouthful of blood. His complexion was extremely pale. Rushing thunder second chain chop. After Xiao Chen landed, he did not hesitate. The lightning attributed energy that he had accumulated for 4 moves burst out ferociously. The electric light on his saber instantly became extremely resplendent. Jin Wuji did his best to block, but he was still knocked back by this saber strike. His clothes were in tatters, and his skin was mangled. Jin Wuji fell miserably to the ground. The electricity on his body had not dissipated yet, crackling non-stop. The surroundings were silent. The martial artists who had previously mocked Xiao Chen were all stunned. Xiao Chen did not even use 10 moves. He only used 5 moves to defeat Jin Wuji. Even if he included that kick, it was only 6 moves. Bang! Li Xiuzhu was so angry that his face turned red. He smashed the wooden table in front of him into wood shavings. He looked at Jin Wuji, who had just climbed up with great difficulty. His eyes were filled with disgust. Trash! You cannot even deal with an inferior grade martial king. What qualifications do you have to participate in the selection? Scram! From a distance, Jin Wuji suffered a heavy blow. He vomited a large mouthful of blood and flew out of the hall. Then, he rolled a few times on the steps before coming to a stop. Li Xiuzhu glared at Xiao Chen before getting up expressionlessly. Without saying anything, he quickly left the place. Li Xiuzhu left in a huff, and his 3 assistants left one after another. Naturally, the banquet ended on an unhappy note. Inside the hall, the outstanding talents from all over no longer looked at Xiao Chen with the same gazes as before. They no longer viewed him as a strong competitor. Their expressions were somewhat depressed. It was not a good thing to have another competitor in the intense selection. There were still 10-odd people in the hall, but their eyes burned with a fierce fighting spirit. They did not fear challenges. The more opponents they had, the more excited they would be. Pei Xiaoxian, what do you think? The Holy Fire Manor's young manor lord, Ling Yun, asked indifferently as he looked at the beast-taming abode's Pei Xiaoxian. Pei Xiaoxian played with the scarlet ring on his index finger gently. He said softly, "He is very strong, but there is no need to be too shocked. If you can catch him off guard, you can defeat Jin Wuji in 10 moves." Ling Yun nodded and said, "Naturally, I understand this principle. However, it's a pity that it's a little difficult to seize the initiative against a cultivator whose cultivation is not lower than his. This is where this person is brilliant." Pei Xiaoxian stood up. Before he left, he said indifferently, "The 100 battles are all real. You can catch him off guard once or twice. However, if you want to fight continuously, your foundation is the most important. I will see you tomorrow." The outstanding talents in the hall discussed the earlier battle for a while before they left. Since the banquet was over, there was no need for them to remain here. Xia Xian led her junior sister over to congratulate Xiao Chen. She said, "Congratulations. It looks like I have another competitor for the ancient desolate land slot." Xiao Chen smiled gently and said, "Miss Xia, you are exaggerating. In a battle between us, we would only have a 50-50 chance of winning." Humph. My first senior sister comprehended sword intent at the age of 16. Now, she is a superior grade martial king. She also cultivates a peak earth-ranked cultivation technique. Her martial techniques are also peak earth-ranked martial techniques. She is not inferior to anyone in the same generation. Don't overestimate yourself. Don't overestimate yourself, Xiao Rou, who was beside Xia Xian, said in dissatisfaction when she heard Xiao Chen comparing himself to Xia Xian. In her opinion, Xiao Chen was able to defeat Jin Wuji in 6 moves. Although he was very strong, it was mostly due to his trickery. If it were not for that kick catching Jin Wuji off guard and causing him to lose the initiative, then forcing him to retreat again and again, it would have been impossible for Xiao Chen to defeat Jin Wuji within 10 moves. However, Xiao Rou did not think that being able to catch an opponent of the same cultivation realm off guard and seize the initiative was a display of strength. When Xiao Chen looked at Xiao Rou, he did not get angry. He could tell that she was trying her best to protect his first senior sister. She was like a little girl worshipping her idol. When Xia Xian heard this, she glared at Xiao Rou. Then, she said apologetically, "Sorry, this little fellow always speaks without thinking. Don't mind her." Xiao Chen smiled faintly and did not say anything. "I will take my leave first. See you tomorrow." Seeing that Xiao Rou still wanted to say something, Xia Xian quickly pulled her to the side and took her leave. Xiao Chen sheathed the lunar shadow saber and did not linger. He prepared to leave. The battle in the wrestling ring tomorrow would be the real start. This was just an appetizer. "Brother Xiao, please wait a moment." Just as Xiao Chen reached the threshold of the hall, Jiang Zimo called out to Xiao Chen. Then, he walked over with Mu Xinya. Although Xiao Chen understood Jiang Zimo, this person had helped him time and time again. This made Xiao Chen want to make friends with him. This was especially so when Jiang Zimo risked defending Li Xiuzhu and spoke up to help him. Compared to those people who tried to curry favor with Li Xiuzhu, Jiang Zimo was even more valuable. Stopping, Xiaochen turned around and performed a cupped fist salute. He said, "Many thanks to Brother Zimo for helping me earlier, helping me obtain this opportunity." Jiang Zimo smiled gently and said, "It is just a small matter. I am not afraid of Li Shouju. He would not dare to do anything to me." Jiang Zimo sounded very confident. It seemed like he had a strong power behind him, something that even Li Shouju feared. Xiaochen did not continue with the pleasantries. He directly said, "Why are you looking for me? If there is anything I can help you with, just ask. In that case, I will remember what you said. If there is nothing, I will look for you." Jiang Zimo smiled and pointed to the silver-haired girl beside him. He said, "She is the one looking for you. I will take my leave first." After Jiang Zimo left, Xiaochen looked suspiciously at the silver-haired girl before him. Although she looked familiar, Xiaochen did not remember seeing this girl before. "Speaking of which, do we know each other?" Xiaochen asked probingly. Mu Xinya looked at Xiaochen and revealed a bitter smile on her exquisite face. She said, "If I tell you, will you kill me again?" Xiaochen was shocked. When he heard the other party's voice, he finally recalled who this silver-haired girl was. Back then, in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, this girl had disguised herself as a human girl, Mu Xinya, for the sake of rescuing the imprisoned Heavenly Wolf King. They had interacted with each other for more than a month. No wonder this girl's gaze never left me the moment I entered the hall. She must have found me familiar. When Xiaochen thought about the events of that day, it was still vivid in his mind. The pleading expressions of the miners appeared clearly in his mind. However, Xiaochen already had a different view of the events of that day. Those miners were sacrificed by the Heavenly Saber Pavilion on purpose. It was hard to tell who was in the right and who was in the wrong. Collecting his thoughts, Xiaochen shook his head and replied, "No, I do not wish to mention the matters of the past. Everyone has their own beliefs. It is just that their point of view is different." When Mu Xinya heard this, she heaved a sigh of relief. She said, "Can we have a chat?" Xiaochen nodded and the two of them flew out. Outside the hall, Jin Wuji's clothes were tattered. He lay on the ground in a sorry state. Occasionally, electricity would flicker on his body. The bones in Xiaochen's chest caved in visibly. That was a palm strike from Li Shouju filled with rage. As a bona fide martial monarch, this palm strike caused more damage than Xiaochen. Furthermore, Xiaochen had injured Jin Wuji. Without half a year of recuperation and miraculous medicine, it would be difficult for Jin Wuji to recover to his peak state. To these geniuses, wasting half a year was an extremely cruel thing to do. It might result in a gap that they would never be able to cross. When the cultivators passing by saw this scene, they felt that the world was like a game of chess. The universe was unpredictable. 15 minutes ago, Jin Wuji was the envy of everyone. As long as he did not lose in 10 moves, he would be able to pass the first round easily. However, 15 minutes later, an inferior-grade martial king defeated him in 6 moves. If news of this spread, his reputation would be ruined. Furthermore, Li Shouju made a move to injure Jin Wuji, disqualifying him from being a candidate. This was like adding snow to snow. It was a tragic sight. Everyone remembered this lesson. In the future, they could not underestimate any cultivator with a lower cultivation. They could not guarantee that it would be another Xiaochen. Jin Wuji lying on the ground was the best example of how miserable their fates were. Ding Fengqiu slowly walked over to Jin Wuji and sighed to himself. Jin Wuji was completely crippled. He had lost the qualifications to compete with the top geniuses forever. In this age of geniuses, where the age of geniuses had just sprouted, this was undoubtedly a tragedy. I told you long ago, it is important to know one's limits. If you are not strong enough, don't use the heavenly sword gate to show off. You are asking for it if you are crippled. Ding Fengqiu placed his palm on Jin Wuji's chest and circulated his essence. The electricity in Jin Wuji's body was immediately sucked into Ding Fengqiu's palm. You're tuning into the Tashin Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.